First off, I know you can see the title, so you know exactly what you're getting into. Second off, I would like to thank personally each and every one of you for putting up with my nonsense. But I'd like to actually get a video out for this milestone, so I'm not going to do that, but if I had the time, then yes, I would sit down and read the entire list of all 200 of you that have subscribed to me. I find that very odd that there are actually 200 people that find me not annoying. So, this is basically the thank you video for subscribing to me and Hanako's Epilogue at the same time. Because luckily enough for me, I've been working on this and I was like, oh, would you look at that? I hit 200 subscribers. It's like, well, I have an idea. Put this out for the 200 subscriber special. That way I'm actually acknowledging it with a video, and you're getting Hanako's entire epilogue. But instead of pictures, I came up with something a little bit different. And probably once I stop talking and then start talking again, you'll see exactly what I mean. So, I think we're done listening to me. Now, let's listen to me for about 3 or 4 hours. Enjoy. 2 + 2. I held the pen between my fingers, looking pensively at the stationery in front of me addressed to Iwanako. Soft sunlight was pouring through the nearby window, causing my eyes to glance out toward the morning sun over the city. Then my eyes drift back to my letter. It had taken me a long time, but I decided not to completely ignore the fact she had sent me a letter during what felt like so long ago during Yamaku. I had a new life, and even though my old one was over, I realized I wanted to at least share this new one with my former. I had lost a lot of friends and made a whole bunch of new ones, but I couldn't just erase my past. It was something I came to terms with recently. Iwanako. A lot has changed. That was the only way I could think of starting my letter. I just hope everyone's graduation went well. I graduated a few months ago myself. It doesn't feel that way, though. It feels like I had graduated Yamaku just the other day. It's also fresh in my mind. I met a lot of people, and most of them changed me, even though I already changed enough of my own. My parents are paying for an apartment so I can commute to my university easier. I'm not sure what I'm going to do exactly there, but I plan to take it as I go for the most part. A few days at a time with a few goals to go with it. I'm studying sciences, seeing as that's what I received highest marks for in Yamaku. Plus, my homeroom teacher, our science teacher, also suggested it. I'm liking it so far, so I can't say it was a bad decision. Life is so interesting now. I started dating someone because they've been living at Yamaku or shoved between foster homes. They're an orphan. So I invited her to come live with me. It might seem strange given my circumstances I'm writing you now, but I felt I should at least keep in touch with one person from my old life. How have you been? Going to university, or are you looking for work now? It was about here that I ran out of ideas for what to talk about. Then I felt the chin resting on my shoulder. Who are you writing to? A familiar voice asked me. I smiled. That hesitant voice of hers and soft tone always got me smiling. Iwanako, I informed her, not skipping a beat. I could sense a slight frown forming on her face, but she seemed to understand as she read the letter from over my shoulder. So, when's Lily coming over? She said she'd been wanting to see our apartment. Hanako draped her arms around my shoulders. She said later tomorrow, but I don't know if she'll make it. She can't seem to decide if she wants to move back home to Scotland or stay here. I nodded. I could understand that. I miss my parents too sometimes, but I tried not to let it get the best of me. She kissed me on the cheek and wandered off to the couch, turning on the TV and our video game console. I picked up an old last-gen system from a flea market for cheap, and Hanako seemed to love it. If she wasn't reading, she was surfing the internet or playing video games. I usually hassled her, calling her a nerd, which always got her flustered. I put down the pen, stretching a bit. Life around here was pretty lazy when it wasn't a school day. Weekends were my days off for morning jogs. As much as I hated being reminded of my own mortality, Amy made me promise on graduation that I'd take care of myself and improve my own waning health. Other people are relying on you and care about you, so you better not let them down. Her cheerful world... Here it goes again, Lily's arc all over again. Her cheerful words still rang in my head. Sometimes the people I knew from Yamaku called or texted me, making plans to hang out. Even Kenji, which was surprising. I was amazed he could even see the keys on his phone to call me. I scoffed to Kenji. I scoffed to myself. Kenji, that kid. He had words with me regarding Hanako.
Hey, you two living together now? You and that crispy chick?
Kenji had asked me one day when we hung out and had what we called a manly picnic, consisting of just a bottle of Jack Pass between us. I nodded. But don't call her crispy, that's wrong. At this, Kenji chuckled at my expense.
No worries, bro. Just I prefer my girls medium rare. Get what I'm saying? Plus, you gotta be careful nowadays. Never know what women are part of the feminist fascist movement.
He said as I sipped from the whiskey bottle listening to him. It was entertaining, I'll guiltily admit. I also admit I had no idea where he was getting this liquor in the first place, seeing as he was still underage. Yeah, and don't worry, I've already interviewed her. She's definitely not a feminist or part of the vast conspiracy to enslave mankind. She actually seems to be on our side. More than a few sips of whiskey let me keep up with this nonsense, which I grew endeared to.
Good, good. Man, my job gives me such a hard fucking time about my knowledge. I bet my boss is a feminist. He's probably sucking up to the spies in the feminist regime, trying to keep himself from getting killed when the invasion begins. Little does he know that they'll just kill him anyways to turn him into a sperm factory for their baby machines. Did you know that? They got baby machines. Crazy artificial baby factories. All they need is some of our magic juice and bam, auto-feminist. I've been trying to infiltrate them so I can sabotage their factories, but I sort of stopped listening about their chuckling and nodding along as he went. He wanted to see my apartment too sometime, although I doubted how much of it he could actually see. Honestly, I missed Yamaku. All the screwballs and unique people made life interesting. Going to regular university just seemed boring. Every time I met someone, I tried figuring anything I could about them that just lay underneath the surface. Rin would be proud. She actually gave me a couple of tips on what to watch out for when people watching. She actually gave me a couple tips on what to watch out for when people watching during our graduation party. Okay, that was written wrong. I had made some new friends. Some people took to me pretty quickly. Called me interesting. Probably a bit of Yamaku that rubbed off on me in the past year there. I smirked to myself, realizing a little way I could tease Hanako. You know, Hana, around Thursday some people I know invited me to a restaurant. I flopped over the couch's back, laying on my stomach in some awkward otter-like position as I watched her play Tales of Symphonia. She always played as the ninja chick in purple instead of using the main character. Yeah, I remember. You didn't come back until late and woke me up when you got into bed, she said somewhat indignantly. Well, you know, there were some girls there. Hanako's character faltered a little in the middle of a battle, and she didn't use an item quickly enough to heal one of her comrades, causing their death. I glanced over to Hanako. She was pouting. One day she was going to give me a heart attack out of sheer cuteness. Oh, yeah? Her stammer was growing because she was starting to feel insecure. Yeah, one of them asked me out on a date. This, of course, wasn't true, but I heard it from a friend or two that the girl in question I was talking about had a thing for me. The game went on pause and she glared at me, waiting for what I said next. I told her sure, but I'd have to get back to her after asking you for permission. Hanako's response was almost instant. Absolutely not, she exclaimed, louder than usual. I laughed a few times, rolling over. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Hanako had come a long way before she gave the impression that jokes like this would send her spiraling into a life-ending depression. Now she seems to take them a bit better. But she wound up telling me one day that it was okay for me to joke around with her like I did with others. I won't break, I promise. An hour went by and I wound up draping my legs over the arm of the couch, placing my head in Hanako's lap. She rested her controllers on the side of my head, which caused me to groan and protest. I was watching her play, grazing in and out of the borders of sleep and waking. After some time, Hanako saved a game and played with a lock of my hair, trying to wake me up a little more so she could get up. I'm going to take a shower, she said, heading to the bedroom most likely to grab some clothes to change into from after the shower. A pair of underwear and one of my white t-shirts. Hey, why are you stealing my clothes? Hanako playfully stuck a tongue out at me, her eyes darting away from mine at first, as if she was stealing something. I like wearing your clothes. It makes me feel like you're hugging me when I wear them. I had sat up to ask her that question, now threw myself backward, clutching my chest. I feel a heart attack coming on. Too much. Adorable. Gonna die. I groaned, but Hanako rushed over to me, concerned even though she knew I was being facetious. You better not have a heart attack. I'll be the most uncute girlfriend ever if it means you won't die on me. You better not, ever. She rushed over to me and grabbed me by the shoulders, dropping the clothes and shaking me a little. Ah, it's getting worse, I said, making a silly face as I mocked died. But don't worry, I won't die on you. I'm going to outlive you, you know. That's why I've been exercising lately, because I don't want you to have to say goodbye, I said, sitting up with a sincere smile. Hanako sighed in relief and then smiled, a slight blush creeping into her cheeks.
promise?" Hanako extended a pinky. "Pinky promise? I thought only kids did that." Hanako looked away a little. "Well, in the orphanage, no one ever broke pinky promises. They're the highest form of promise. If you break them, you have to do what the other person says forever." I laughed, extending a pinky of my own and wrapping it around hers. "That sounds like a repercussion I can enjoy," I told her as she leaned forward and kissed me on the lips. "That seals the promise, then. I wonder what good the repercussion would do, because if I had died, how would I obey her every wish? It didn't matter, though. It was the promise for the sake of emotion." I watched her walk into the bathroom and considered surprising her by joining, but decided against it. Maybe another day. She'd probably expect it if I did. Instead, I stood up and headed back to my desk where I did my schoolwork and surfed the internet on the desktop Hanako and I built together. I figure I'll continue working on that letter. I'm really happy now. I have a lot of people in my life who care about me and are able to cope with my condition. For granted, most of those people have their own conditions, but this seems irrelevant. It seems most important to me that the people I've met are so kind and accepting. Hope you're happy too. Feel free to write back. Snail mail is inconvenient, but I like the novelty of having a pen pal. Regards, Hisao. My cell phone was on the desk and I decided to check it. I always left it on the desk while I slept and usually ignored it during the morning because I hated being woken up from my blissful rest with Hanako in my arms or dealing with people when I was groggy in the morning. I flipped it open just to check if I had any missed calls or text messages. I actually missed 3 calls and a text from my father. I opened it wondering what was so urgent. "Hey, son, your mother and I are going to stop by around noon. You didn't answer your phone, so I had to type this out. I hate text messages." He hated it because he was a perfectionist and he had to spell every word right, taking ages to complete a single text message. My eyes moved to the time in the corner. It was 11:30. They'd be here in half an hour. Oh, crap. I never told my parents that I had someone else living with me, or that I had a girlfriend. Shit. I had about 20 minutes to figure something out. I had no idea how my parents would take to me living with a girlfriend. I never had one before. I had even less of a clue of how they'd react to Hanako. People have a tendency to stare, and even though she'd gotten much more comfortable without her scars, it still upset her a lot when people prodded her too much about it. She usually would hide behind me the minute people started asking too many questions. I'd have to deflect the conversation. Some people didn't have tact, unfortunately. I admit I was one of those people, though. At one time, though. I couldn't just call them and try to ring, "Oh, hi, Mom and Dad. By the way, I have a girlfriend living with me who has burns covering half of her body. See you in 20 minutes. It's all one word, so I tried that the best I could. That was understandable, right? I hope so. It doesn't really work like that. If it did, this wouldn't be a big deal. I should probably at least tell Hanako first that my parents were coming by so she wasn't completely blindsided by this. She'd at least be able to mentally prepare herself from the potentiality of my parents asking all sorts of questions. As I reached for the bathroom door, my doorbell rang. My hand froze in place. No. I walked toward the door and opened it a crack. My watch said I still had at least 15 minutes. My dad grinned at my surprised expression. He was a pretty big guy, broad-shouldered and hardened-looking. My mother, on the other hand, was very thin and lithe. I'm guessing I pronounced that right. It had been such a long time since I'd seen them, I felt like I'd almost forgotten what they'd look like. My father's dark brown, unkempt hair was where I got mine from, but my mother's dirty blonde hair color is where I've got my hair color. "We decided to leave a bit early as a surprise, seeing as it's been so long since we've seen you," my father said, his voice as gravelly as I remembered. Oh. That seemed to be the only thing I could muster as I heard the water turn off in the bathroom. All my senses seemed so much more keen right now, probably because I was feeling a little panicked. "Aren't you going to invite us in?" My dad clasped a heavy hand on my shoulder. He was being playful, but at the same time he was being forceful. "Oh, yeah, sorry." I led them in, not sure of what to do about the situation. And, as if to make things worse, the bathroom door swung open and Hanako had a towel around her head drying her hair. "Hey, Hisao, who rang the bell?" I froze in place and didn't even want to turn toward my parents. If they weren't angry at me for having someone else living with me in what was probably intended to be just my apartment, they'd probably get mad at me for never letting them know about the girl I'd fallen in love with. When she removed the towel from her head, she saw my deer-in-headlights expression and then my parents behind me. The first thing Hanako did was let loose a little yelp, and then the second thing, well, I can't say I've ever seen a human move so fast or close a door as quickly as she did. I spent roughly half an hour trying to coax Hanako out of the bathroom. My mother seemed neutral in this whole situation, but my dad's arms were folded and he had a look of disapproval on his face. "So, who's that? Some chick you picked up?" Was the first thing my dad asked when he failed my most recent attempt to get Hanako out. When I had failed my most recent attempt to get Hanako out of the bathroom, which she had locked. I frowned at his assumption. "What kind of guy do you think I am?" For a second, it looked like my father had something to say about that, and I felt a wave of unease when looking back retrospectively. I wasn't the poster guy from I wasn't the poster boy for Good Guys Incorporated. There were definitely a couple of times I'd let my libido get the best of me. Hanako and I's first night together was an example of that, and it didn't strike me until later that I'd acted as a complete retard. No, she isn't. She's my girlfriend, and we've been dating since the middle of my school year at Yamaku. My father sighed. You couldn't have done better than that? All right, now I was getting frustrated. My mother picked up from my expression. I think she's very pretty, even with the scars, she said, deflecting my frustration. I'll leave that alone for now, I guess. I took in a small breath. She is, and I should probably tell you a little bit about her. Hanako's pretty sensitive about a lot that's going on in her life, and makes her really uncomfortable when people ask about or stare at her scars. It took her a long time to open up to me about it. What I can say about her without asking beforehand is that she's an orphan and she's been living at Yamaku. When we graduated, I asked if she wanted to stay with me instead of having to go through the government for some kind of provisional housing and potentially not having a place to stay. Her closest friend goes back and forth between Scotland and Japan with her family, so she probably couldn't rely on her, I explained. My father nodded a little. I can respect providing for your woman, but don't you think you're being a bit rash? How long has it been since you two got together? Most people wait years before moving in together. This was true, but it didn't seem rash to me, nor did it seem to have any complications on our relationship. About 8 months. My father nodded slowly. Clearly it wasn't long enough in his books, but decent enough for now. He changed the subject. Well, seeing as she's living in the apartment we're paying for, why don't we have lunch here? I want to get her to know her a bit better. Your mother made a good point. I am being a bit superficial when it comes to the scars. I'd like to get to know her a bit better. I just hope Hanako can handle this. My mother nodded in agreement, as quiet as ever. I walked back to the bathroom and knocked. Hey, Hana, I realize that you're probably locking yourself in there because you didn't grab any regular clothes. Want me to grab something for you so you can change and come out? It seemed that was the ticket. I heard the door unlock and it opened a sliver. What I could see of Hanako's face was bright red. Those are your parents, aren't they? She whispered. I nodded. Oh, God, I wanted to meet and make a better first impression than this. This is so embarrassing. Her whispers were frantic, which made her seem all the cuter. Don't worry about first impressions too much. They're staying for lunch because they want to get to know you a little better, which I think is a good sign in itself. Hanako looked horrified at the subject. Oh no, I smiled. Don't worry, I told them that you're a little sensitive about your past, so they shouldn't ask too many painful questions. They shouldn't ask about your scars either. I don't know how many times I have to say it before you start believing it, but you're beautiful with or without them. Her face turned a deeper shade of red, one I thought was impossible to achieve. She leaned forward and placed a quick kiss on my lips as she told me which clothes she'd like me to get for her, seeing as she was too embarrassed to leave the room. While Hanako changed, I decided I should change too. Hanako was rather keen on certain aspects of fashion and actually forced me to stop wearing that sweater vest of mine. How can you have him stop wearing the swagger vest? It's the swagger vest! No! Just no! Whatever. I really liked it, but with that adorable smile on her face, she said it was kind of tacky and advised me to expand my wardrobe a little. I did, but I don't plan to throw it away. Good man, Hisao. That girl could probably try justifying the Nazi regime while smiling, and I'd probably agree with her. I switched into a plain black waistcoat, some dark jeans, and an unbuttoned collared shirt, rolled up to the sleeves. When Hanako finally left the bathroom, she smiled abashedly. She was wearing a headband that kept her bangs from her eyes, something I always complained about. I liked seeing her face, but it was always hidden by her hair. It was incredibly refreshing to see her with that hair out of her eyes. She wore a black shirt and a nice long-sleeved blouse with a light purple ribbon tied around the collar. Nice to meet you, she exclaimed, bowing her head a little at my parents. Likewise, my father said. My mother giggled a little at Hanako's shy nature. You picked a looker, Hisao. She's very cute. I smiled a little. Glad I wasn't the only one who thought so, as I glared at my father. I was hoping he'd follow suit in complimenting her, but he decided not to. You can just call us Mom and Dad. Mr. Nakai is my father, and we'll wait for you to get to know us better before we get on a first-name basis. My father chuckled as carefree as ever. My mother nodded. I agree. So, Mom and Dad? She asked Hanako. She looked a little upset, but she forced a smile. I knew what she was thinking. She missed her real parents, the ones she could barely remember. She had no photos of them. Everything she had of theirs was burned down with that house fire. But it seemed like something grew in her when she spoke her next words. Okay, Mom and Dad. Hearing her say that was kind of cute, I'll admit. Is there anything you'd like specifically to eat for lunch? Hanako asked my parents and myself. Suddenly, a good idea hit me. Oh, Hana, do you think you can make that stir-fry you did last week? That was pretty good. When I said this, Hanako's expression looked disapproving. We only had fried food that day because you got an A on an exam. Fried foods aren't good for your heart, Hisao." At these words, I could practically hear my parents smiling. "You know, maybe maybe Hanako staying here is a good idea. This way someone is keeping an eye on you and keeping you in good health for us." Oh wait, that was, she said? Apparently that was Hisao's mom? Whatever. Which made Hanako light up. In a way, it was praise, and it was the beginning of acceptance to the fact that I kinda had my girlfriend living here without letting anyone know. I moved the topic back to the food. "Well, I'm sure my parents would like it at least. You can make me whatever else. I'd make my own food, but you remember how that went," I said, suddenly feeling very uncomfortable from that dramatic event. My mother arched an eyebrow. "Oh?" Hanako glared at me a little. "Yeah, he set the stovetop on fire. He's not allowed to cook anymore." My father busted out laughing at this. "Hey, so I'm not the only one who managed to pull that off." I sighed. When lunch was finally served, I looked longingly to the 2 plates of delicious-looking stir-fry that Hanako strummed up after giving thanks for the meal. They were chock full of delicious vegetables, chicken, and fried noodles. Hanako and I on the other side of the table were sitting with a bowl of salad and tuna sandwiches on wheat bread. "You could have had some stir-fry too, you know," I said, jabbing my chopsticks into the salad and mix the dressing along with the lettuce. "Well, I think it's unfair for me to have it too if you can't." "Fair enough. I wouldn't complain. I just hope she didn't try getting too experimental with my parents' food." Hanako had a knack for picking up things quickly, but she still didn't understand that when it came to cooking, novices shouldn't always experiment before learning the basics. A few peculiar dishes she created taught me that little pearl of wisdom. We began silently eating for a little while, then my mother spoke up. "So, do you have any plans for your futures?" "Well, we know generally about Hisao's plans, seeing as we're helping with him with college tuition, but how about you, Hanako?" My father seemed too concerned with gobbling up the meal, piping hot as it was, as quickly as possible. "Well," she began, looking fidgety. I glanced over and saw she was wringing her hands and starting to pinch the fabric of her skirt. Uh-oh. Panic attack? "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, Hana." She bit her lip. "But I want to." I took in a breath, hoping she'd be fine with this kind of questioning. I felt nervous when people asked me questions about my future. I'm sure Hanako got even more so. "Well, I wanted to keep this a secret from Hisao, but..." She took a deep breath and then exhaled. "Hisao's made me think a lot about my future, seeing as it seems he knows what exactly he's going to do with his life. So I've been volunteering in a local orphanage. It's a train ride away. I grew up in one really similar to it, so I figured I would help people who need it. I really want to help people. I want to make sure that the orphans feel loved." I could see her eyes beginning to water a little, thinking about the day she spent alone in an orphanage while all the kids she knew were taken away to live happy new lives. I want to become a social worker, maybe start attending university and study child psychology. But I want to see what it's like first before I enroll, which is why I'm volunteering. It'll cost a lot of money, and I want to be sure before I start working really hard to pay for the tuition." She took in a deep breath and exhaled again, as if she just delivered a presidential address. My father nodded, placing down his chopsticks a bit harder than he might have intended to. "That's admirable. I like you." A corny grin appeared on his face. "If you ever need help, feel free to ask us. We don't really know much about the business or anything. We can help you look for good colleges, and you seem important to Hisao." He paused for a second, shooting me a dirty look. "Despite not having told us anything about you." I raised my hands as if I was defending against an invisible attack. Sorry. I've just been so caught up in living," I said, not really having any kind of real justifiable excuse. "Oh, it's fine, Hisao. We already knew," my mother told me, almost tired sounding. "Eh?" I asked, a little confused. "We knew. The landlord told us. Plus, the nurse at Yamaku has his ear against everyone's walls, it seems. When he called us to let me know how your health has been, he mentioned that you started dating and living with a girl named Hanako Ikozawa." "Seriously? What, was the nurse some kind of spy?" "A psychic spy?" Hanako and I were pretty quiet with our relationship. Either Yamaku was very tight-knit, or he was seriously spying on people. "It was your father's idea to rattle you two up a bit and see what happened. This time it was my turn to shoot my father a dirty look. He smirked at it. People are most honest when they don't have the opportunity to lie. I wanted to see what you two were like together. And honestly, you two are a great match. Glad you find someone special after your crisis." And of course that was Hisao's dad saying that. Frig. "You were pretty disturbed when you were in the hospital. I wasn't sure you'd ever snap out of it. Took a nice girl, it seems," he said. "You two should come by our place sometime during the next holiday. We can have a big dinner," he said, standing up. My mother nodded, agreeing with their sentiment. Hanako and I both stood up as well. "Leaving?" I asked. My dad nodded. Yeah, gotta get back home. It's a little bit of a drive. Driving is boring. I walked him to the exit. Hanako, my dad said, causing her to jump a little. Yes? She asked plaintively. When my son was diagnosed, something in him broke. Over the course of a few months, he shut out the world, retreated into books in his own mind as everything in his world vanished. A moment of quiet. You changed him. You made him better. He looks like my old son, but newer, stronger. I wanted to say thank you for giving me back my son. I sighed. My father was so sappy. What neither of us expected was for him to move forward and hug Hanako. I was serious when I said call me dad. You're part of our family now, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better. You two better not split up anytime soon. Got me? He asked. Hanako nodded slowly, hugging him back a little. We won't. I don't intend to, at least, she said. My dad laughed boisterously. Good. Take care, you two, he said as he and my mother left. Okay. See you later, Mom and Dad. I could tell those words were painful and enjoyable at the same time, but I was glad she was accepting of my parents. I closed the door behind him, heaving another sigh. What an ordeal. When I turned around, Hanako was barring the path of the hallway. So, I made you better? She asked with a beaming smile. I let a little one sneak onto my face. I suppose you did. It was the truth. I'd probably be a mess if I hadn't fallen for this shy girl. Everyone my whole life has always been trying to fix me. Wait a second. No, wait, I think this is Hanako saying this. Frig. Everyone my whole life has always tried fixing me when I just wanted someone to accept me. When I met you, I saw that you were sad. I was sad too. But as we got closer, I realized that you weren't like everyone else. That you weren't another person just trying to fix poor broken Hanako. So I gave you all of myself, and I'm glad I did. Because I cared so much about you, you got better. And so did I. Her hands were folded in front of her, resting on her skirt while she stood before me. I didn't know what to say to her at first, so I gave her a heartfelt smile. But then I realized what I wanted to say. Something she always wanted to hear from me. Something I didn't often say because I never wanted the meaning or value to ever cheapen. Hanako? Yeah, Hisao? I love you. She pressed me to the door and kissed me, her chin nestled against my neck and shoulder. I love you too, Hisao. And that's part one. Now it's time for part two. I'm gonna warn you now. Part two is all Hanako's perspective. So there's going to be a lot of Hanako's voice going around. So this is probably where my voice box is going to explode. Just warning you. Part 2. Look at me. I walked over to the air conditioner. The heat was so unbearable. Cranking it up, I could hear Hisao's displeased voice from the next room over. Hana, try not to turn it up too high. The electric bill lately has been getting crazy, and I'm having trouble covering it. Even with all the hours I'm getting lately at work, school fees and rent is making it hard to cover the electric. I frowned a little as I tried peeling my tank top from my skin. But it's so hot. Just for a little? I could hear Hisao getting up from the bedroom, collecting some books and moving his studies into the living room. He sat himself on the couch, laying his books on the coffee table. He was wearing less than I was, just a pair of denim shorts and no shirt. Even though I lived with him and we were lovers, the sight of him walking around without a shirt still made me blush a little. Alright, we can keep it on for like 20 minutes. Might as well enjoy it a little, right? I smiled, kissing him on the cheek. Yep. That sounded a little weird. While he studied on one side of the table, I grabbed a couple of manila folders I had on the corner of it and opened them with a slight frown. I really don't like how they organize these. Hisao glanced over to me as I sighed. What do you mean? My mumbling was distracting him from his work, which I shouldn't, but recently he'd been really busy with work. Plus, school exams were coming up. It didn't really leave us much time for each other. I opened the folder and started sifting through the papers. They were just black and white sheets of paper with names at the top, psychiatrists' evaluations, and droll, depressing descriptions of the children I worked with. Some time ago, I decided I wanted to be a social worker, so I started volunteering in an orphanage a city over. One of my co-workers picked up on my interest in social work, pulled some strings, and got me a paid internship learning how to be a social worker so long as I enrolled in college for child psychology like I'd been wanting to. Since then, I've been working at another orphanage, counseling children. But the way they listed the information on the kids was so depressing. It was just text in medical terms, dry cookie-cutter analysis. analysis of kids who were struggling with life. I don't like how impersonal it is. These files are just words. Scientific explanations, there's no... I glanced over to his cell and realized he was staring at me rather intensely with a smile on his face. What? Why are you staring at me like that? My stammer returned as I started feeling more embarrassed. You got such a big heart. I love it. You really want to do the best for these kids, to give them back what they lost. He leaned over, kissing me on the lips. The heat his body was throwing off and the texture of his skin was doing those funny things he always did to me. I kissed him back, but I had to push him off with a smile and a heavy blush. Later, okay? We both have stuff to do. He nodded, although he did lean over and nibble a bit playfully on the side of my neck, causing me to shiver. Jerk. What I did like doing with my files, though, was take a picture with the kid I was counseling and pin it to the file of them, along with my own notes. I felt like these files needed a more personal touch, so I always offered my own notes and observations to whatever professional social worker kid I was counseling ended up going to. They usually looked at me oddly when I did, but ended up smiling and accepting my offer. I grabbed my tape recorder and plugged a pair of headphones into it, listening to the recorded session I'd most recently undergone. Hey there, Takara. If it's okay with you, I'm going to record this, alright? It's fine, the little girl told me. I don't have a voice for the little girl, by the way. Since she's only in this, and that's it. As I listened, I started sinking into memory, recollecting the session as I reheard it. I looked at her. Downcast eyes, messy unkempt dirty blonde hair, a ragged teddy bear on her lap and worn-looking clothes. As usual at work, my voice was calm and warm. I took on another personality here, as Sal would probably love to see it. Although my coworkers suggested I dress formally for work, I tried to dress semi-formally so the kids wouldn't think I was just another social worker who wanted to push them through the system. My coat rested on the back of my chair in the little office they let me use. It was kind of cool. I had a little desk and a nameplate and everything. It made me feel so efficient. I was like I was really doing something that helped the children who came into my office at the firm when I couldn't make it to certain orphanages. Usually I had a social worker with me, helping me when the counseling, but they wanted me to try and take this one on myself. I was a little nervous, but I felt pretty confident. I folded my hands on my lap, no clipboard and no notes. The little girl in front of me was 10, been through multiple therapists, social workers, and counselors, but not have been showing any progress. I honestly preferred being a counselor on the path to becoming a social worker rather than a psychiatrist or therapist. I sometimes did house visits and worked directly with the kids rather than just sitting at a desk all day and having kids go in and out. Aren't you gonna write stuff down? Her eyes looked around while I waited for her to get comfortable. I had beanbags in the office rather than chairs. Kids tend to like them better, and I always felt more comfortable in them too. They reminded me of the library at Yamaku, my safe haven, the place where I spent so much time with Sal. I shook my head, my smile feeling permanent. She was a cute girl. Nope. That's why I'm recording. It lets me pay more attention to you if I record instead of write things down. Afterward, when we're done talking, I'm going to listen to it and write some notes down so when we talk later, we can make more progress. The look in her eyes belied that she didn't really believe in progress. You're not like the other social workers, are you? I shook my head. Technically, I'm not a social worker. Not yet. I'm a counselor. Therapists and psychiatrists can suggest medicines and medical help. Social workers have legal powers. I just talk and try to help. Takara glanced at me in a kind of unusual way. As the quiet ensued, I decided to start the way I usually did, with one of my awkward laughs and a question. So, do you want to get to know each other a little? Is there anything you'd like to know about me? I know a lot of people you've been sent to are pretty impersonal when they try and talk to you, but I'd like to get you to know me a little more. You know, like friends, I said, clapping my hands together. A year or two ago, the concept of asking someone, would you like to know anything about me, would never have been a feasible action to me. I hated people prying into my life. I used to be so ashamed of who I was and why I existed. But now, things had changed so much. When people asked about certain things, I was more comfortable. Some things were too impersonal to talk about, but I was less conscious about my burns. They had begun to fade little by little over time, although I knew they'd never fade completely. Eventually, Takara spoke. How'd you get those scars? Her eyes roamed along my scarred side, and I flinched a little at the question. Takara noticed my folded expression and lowered her head. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked. I shook my head. No, it's fine. A long time ago, I became an orphan in a house fire. I sighed, folding my hands together, keeping from shaking. The memory was still a painful one. My Mother covered my body when the house started collapsing and we couldn't escape. I was burned really badly. Even trying to say it the way I rehearsed in my head all the time was difficult. I felt a welling in my chest and my eyes water a little. The children counselled almost asked, and not only that, the co-workers and I became friends with Ask, but I would always try to tell them without losing my composure. I wanted to try and become strong enough to completely accept my past. The burns cover a lot of my body. I paused. I looked uncomfortable a second ago because I had post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a really hard thing to get over, and it's not completely gone even now, years later, but I've come a really long way. There was a long silence, then I noticed a painfully melancholy expression on her face. So, your mother died because of you too? I remembered her files. Her mother was a young single mother. She had multiple jobs to afford our apartment, the bills, food, and deal with finding babysitters for her child. According to the friends of the mother, she barely ever got any sleep and wound up finding relief in her nasty drug addiction to heroin. Ultimately, that's what caused her debt to skyrocket and local gangs to become involved. Eventually, the addiction claimed her, and the daughter, walking home from elementary school at 7, found her mother dead on the living room floor, some needles and drug paraphernalia scattered on the floor. I like how I can say paraphernalia just fine, where if I'm trying to say normal words, it's just like and I stutter. It's weird. Like humongous words I can say just fine. Paraphernalia. Boom. Isn't that weird? I'm not the only one that thinks this, right? I leaned forward and placed my hand on hers. We don't have time to talk about things. We don't have to talk about things like that yet, although I would like to eventually. I can tell you about my mom and dad one day, too. I can barely remember them, but there's a few stories that keep close to my heart, and I like sharing, so I never forget them. She looked up with me with conflicted eyes. Why? She seemed unsure of what to say. What do you mean, Takara? Her eyes narrowed and her mouth folded into a pained frown. Why do things like this happen to us? I tightened my hand on hers. There's no reason for it, but no matter what, things get better. It's hard to see now, but trust me. Such terrible things happen to me. I used to be such a mess. But I found someone who helped me grow and cared about me for who I was. Takara started to sob a little, and I dived closer to her. I took in a deep breath. That's who I want to be to you. I want to be someone who cares about who you are and help you to get where you want to be, so long as you want that help. I'm not going to pity you or look down on you. No matter what your mom did or happened, I'm never going to look down on you for it. Things will get better, I promise. I'll always be here in this little office with these little beanbags. Okay? Her slight shudders at my words eventually exploded into full-out crying. I drew her closer to me, letting her cry into the vest and sweater and blouse. It didn't even say sweater. Blouse I wore to work. I know it doesn't feel all right, but it will. And things will get better, and I'll listen to anything you want to say, Takara. According to my superiors, the fact that I was so much like those orphans let me open up much more in comparison to some of the other social workers or counselors at the firm I was working with. They opened up, grew to trust me quickly, and I always seemed to know the things to say and how to put heart into things I wrote. These kids weren't just a diagnosis or mental problem, even if they might have one or two or wind up with some in the future. They were people to me, and I cared and loved each one of them. Some of them I visited when I had the chance and would play games with them and the other children at the orphanages. It was satisfying and it gave me direction and meaning that I felt that I'd lacked for so long. I continued jotting down discussions I wanted to bring up, mindsets I wanted to address, and deep-seated problems that I wanted to unearth carefully. I really enjoyed my work. It let me come out of my shell just a little bit every day, something that I wanted to do so badly. If I didn't, I felt like Hasao would eventually leave me behind. I didn't want him to get away from me in any way. The snapping of Hasao's book shut caught me off guard. I jumped a bit and placed my hand to my chest. Hasao, you're going to give me a heart attack one day. I gave him a little smile, poking fun at him. Ha ha. A wry smile as he leaned back against the couch and fanned himself with some of his university worksheets. He had finally narrowed his study down to medical science. He would be one of the guys one day who sits in a laboratory mixing new chemicals together to invent new medicine and save lives. We were both going to save lives. He would save lives with medicine, I would save children with my compassion. I smiled as I leaned back and placed my head on his lap, looking up at him. He glanced down at me, decided to fan me with his papers too, making me giggle a bit. I could take my eyes from him. I loved him so much. What would I do without this boy? Well, man. We had grown a lot since graduation. He'd gotten stronger, both physically and emotionally. So had I. I placed my hand on the scar on his chest. He was looking across the room and doing math in the air. It looked like he was trying to figure out some kind of chemical formula. I love you, you nerd. Hey, just because you put "I love you" before it doesn't mean it's okay to make fun of me. Even as cute as you are, I'm not just going to ignore that. I wanted to put that theory to test, I decided. Sure I can. Hisao arched an eyebrow at me. I love you, even your ugly, messy hair. I put on a cute smile and let the warmth of my love for him fill my eyes. He paused, looking confused. I should feel insulted, but I can't. I love you even though most middle schoolers can outrun you. This time I wrapped my arms around him and pressed my face to his chest, sighing contentedly. That's really not fair. I was winning and he didn't like it. You're kind of making me feel bad, you pain in the ass. I cooed at him. Oh, I'm sorry. This time I kissed him on the cheek. How about I make it up to you? I'll let you take me on a date because I love you. Hisao stopped dead in his tracks, this time rolling up his worksheet and patting me with it. That's it. I'm not letting you get away with this anymore. His arm shot to my sides, and I felt the shooting sensation of tickling force laughter through my entire body. No, not tickling. My one true weakness, the only counter that Hisao had to what he called my unstoppable cuteness. I tried pushing him off, but my strength was being sapped by all the laughter he was forcing out of me. Plus, I was quickly becoming short of breath. After some time, he stopped abruptly and I realized he was on top of me. His hands pressed against the couch to my right and the left of my face. I could see in his eyes where he wanted to go with this. He leaned forward and kissed me, his lips trailing down my neck and towards my shoulders. I couldn't contain my voice. I was too lethargic from the heat. But it's so hot, I protested, but Hisao's hands kept roaming. Once they found their way to my chest, I exhaled sharply. Yeah, but we've both been so busy with everything but each other lately. I miss you, and that stammer when you get embarrassed. It reminds me of when we met, and how hard I fell for you. I blushed and looked away. Hisao, master of romance, you just can't help but sweet-talk him, can you? I gave up. He was right with how we hadn't spent much time together lately. He was at work, I was at work. He was at school, or he was relaxing with friends. I didn't demand all of his time, but I did miss him too, especially the intimacy. At night, we were usually just so tired and it was too hot to want to do anything between the sheets. My capris came sliding off, as did my top. I didn't waste any time with removing Hisao's clothes either. Condom. Yeah, you see where this is going. Just gotta, break the mood. A command, less than a statement. Hisao looked slightly taken aback by my forcefulness. We've forgotten a couple of times and even... Wait. Hanako's saying this, right. We've forgotten a couple of times, and even though you pulled out, my period was late last month. Hisao looked a little dampened by my statement. He wandered off into the bedroom eventually to return with one of those familiar square packages. You see where this is going. Ho, 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 ho. Breaking the mood again. As I waited and caught the breath that Hisao had stolen from me, I thought about what kind of future we were going to have together. It had been 2 years since we got together. I'd really come close with his parents. We lived together and made love often. I wondered if he'd ever proposed to me. Such a thought put a blush on my face and a heat in my chest I wasn't very comfortable with. The concept of marriage and proposal embarrassed me. But at the same time, wouldn't it be wonderful? Just as I started daydreaming about marriage, Hisao walked back into the room, climbing onto me. Why's your face so red? You must have missed me more than I thought. His voice was low and seductive. I couldn't resist. Mm-hmm. I didn't want him to know what I was actually thinking. Instead, I wrapped my arms around him, pressing my nails into his back and dragging them slowly against his skin. Hisao didn't expect this, and the expression on his face was priceless. I smiled, my face still red. He positioned himself after putting on the condom and began wrapping my legs around his waist. You are something, Hanako. His voice was just a whisper as he gently slid into me, and I pulled him closer to my body. Even though it was easily 90-plus degrees outside, I didn't want the heat of his body to be lost. I loved the warmth he gave off. I loved the sound of his voice. I loved how his brown eyes bore into mine. I loved how he gave me everything I could want in a person. As we rocked back and forth, voices mingling together in pleasure between kisses, he whispered something in my ear. I feel like the longer I spend with you and see the person you're becoming... He paused to catch his breath. I wasn't worried about his heart. He'd gotten a lot stronger since he started his run so long ago to improve his health. I hadn't let him forget about the promise I made him make, that he wasn't allowed to die before me. and the more I feel like I'm still falling in love with you. It had been a long time since he had said something that had caused an upwelling of emotion in me. I shed a tear while we made love. Hanako? He sounded concerned, but I pulled his head into my shoulder. Don't stop. He always stopped if I ever cried. He always mistook it for pain and sadness when it was always overwhelming happiness. So I didn't just let him see it for now, and instead whispered how important he was in his ear until we finished. I was quickly reaching that point, shouts of pleasure arching up my back and stomach into my chest, causing me to tighten my hold on him and let loose a sigh that eventually culminated into a loud exclamation. We collapsed into one another, clad in each other's and our own sweat. It wasn't unpleasant, and I still held him close to me while he rested his head on my chest. I played with that goofy hair of his while we caught our breath. I imagined him one day becoming an old man, in a laboratory with glasses the size of Kenji's, mixing things together and trying to create artificial life or something ridiculous, his uncontrolled hair turning gray. I wanted to be that mad scientist's wife one day. I laughed at Hisao, and he looked up at me. What? His smile was plaintive and content. I shook my head, kissing him on the forehead. Nothing. He got up and motioned towards the bathroom with a thumb. I'm going to take a slightly cold shower. Want to join? It'd be refreshing. I nodded and extended my hand, which he took. We walked together into the shower and cooled off a bit. I had fun shampooing Hisao's hair and making it stick up even more ridiculous than it usually did. As retaliation, he attacked me with a soapy sponge. Afterward, we both got dressed and returned to the living room. It was 1 in the afternoon, so I just started to start making something. How much more of this do I have? It's not looking good. Looks like this is frig. Yeah, there's a lot left of this. This is probably going to be that hour portion. Alright, now where the hell was I? Frig. Oh, there I am. I opened the fridge. I wanted to make something refreshing. Maybe that risotto recipe I'd read the other day. It was asparagus and almond risotto. Part of the recipe involved adding ice to cool it after it was cooked through to keep us from feeling overheated by the meal. I grabbed a saucepan and saute pan, placing both on the stovetop. From the fridge, I grabbed a cup's worth of pre-made stock, placed it in the center of the saucepan, heating it to an eventual boil. On the saute pan, I heated up some vegetable oil over a medium flame. While that heated, I chopped some garlic and onion, adding it to the saute pan. About 3 minutes was what the recipe recommended, so that the vegetables were translucent but not brown and cooked too through. Cooked but not too much. I wanted to retain some of the crisp flavor of the vegetables to complement the dish. In the saucepan, I added the arborio rice to the boiled stock. I lowered the heat on the saucepan so that the rice wouldn't burn. Back to the saute pan. I poured in the sauteed vegetables, adding ice and asparagus. Another cup of stock added to the saucepan, and I began stirring it together, adding a little bit of wine at a time until it was completely absorbed. Then, the final touch as I turned off the flame, stir in some lemon, some Parmesan cheese, and season with salt and pepper, topped with crushed almonds. I separated the meal into 2 plates, pouring a little bit of wine for both of us to sip with the lunch. You're going to be a hell of a wife one day, Hisao said from where he rested his chin on the back of the couch like he always did. What? This caught me off guard as I brought the plates to the dining room table. I could feel my face burning red and I avoided his gaze. I could hear soft laughter. It's true, you know, and one day I'm going to marry you. God, Hisao, could you try and embarrass me any more? I covered my face with both hands, unwilling to move from where I stood to bring the glasses of wine to the table where our food waited. Hisao walked over to me, kissing me on the cheek and grabbing the 2 glasses, handing them to me. Come on, let's eat. It smells really good. After the meal, Hisao washed down the last of the meal with the white wine I'd poured for us. You know what'd be nice? He asked while kissing me in the cheek as thanks for the meal and walked into the bedroom across the apartment. What? I asked, my mind drifting off to the thought of marriage again. My imagination started to flare up, and for a second I lost myself in a daydream of Hisao coming out of the bedroom with a magnificent ring. Hanako? I was shaken from my daydream and was caught by Hisao looking at me confused. You okay lately? Hope you aren't catching a cold or something, he said, placing the back of his hand against my forehead. No, I'm fine. My voice trailed off. You didn't hear what I asked? I shook my head, smiling a little. Sorry, no, what was it? Hisao sighed and looked and shook his head at me, a soft smile on his face. I wanted to know if you would go to the beach with me. All of my classmates have been talking about the beach, and I'm dying to go. The weekend's coming up. I think we could use a break and some more time together. Damn it, Sal. Beaches were one thing I absolutely abhorred, but that smile. I couldn't handle this. I wanted to go with him, but I didn't want to go. I could let him go by himself, but maybe he'd get his friends to go with him. But wait, didn't he make some female friends from his general study classes? He mentioned a couple of them like him, but he doesn't feel comfortable not telling me. He was going to the beach with friends instead of me. Want to go with those girls? No. If I didn't go with him, he might look at them. I didn't want Hassel looking at any other women. Wait, even if he didn't go with his friends, wouldn't there still be women there? Felt like steam was rising from under my tank top and out from my ears. If I went, he would be focused on me and wouldn't look at other women. Going to the beach, though, means wearing a bikini or some kind of swimwear if I want him to look at me instead of the other girls. That would mean everyone would see my scars. In public. Everyone. I felt my breathing suddenly sharpen and felt myself relapsing into my old panic attacks I used to have. Tunnel vision started to overwhelm my sight, and all I could see were my hands on the table. My head was pounding. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. Sal's touch brought me back. Hanako. A firm tone that got my attention. He placed his hand on my cheek. Don't worry about it. You don't have to. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. A plain smile, one I hadn't seen in a long time. I hate that smile, that distant smile. It reminded me of high school. The days when he first met me, when he pitied me before he came close to me and saw past it all. No, I shouldn't worry about it. Where the hell was I? Damn it! My eyes were focused on him as I grabbed his hand before he walked away. And don't ever look at me like that. You used to look at me like that back then. My voice tapered off into the silence and Hassao sighed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Whenever you want to, let me know. Doesn't have to be this weekend, can be the next. I should have thought about it a little more. He kissed me on the lips and I didn't let go of him. My eyes wandered to the floor. This weekend, I finally said. Hassao seemed surprised, but he didn't try and reassure me that I didn't have to. He knew if I wanted to face my fears that I would. I'll call Lily. She's down here for the summer. We can meet up at the beach. Kenji'd probably like to come too. He's got a girlfriend now. Can you believe it? Wait, was Hassao saying that? I don't know. Doesn't flat out say that he was. I don't know. Well, Hassao laughed cheerfully, but I was still worried. I was horrified at the concept of the beaches, but I was going to do it. Right. Need to stop hesitating. Hey, we said we were going to always face our fears together, okay? I have my own scars too, Hassao. Stop being so reassuring. It made it harder to be as afraid of this as I should be. I kissed him, nodding quietly. I'm going to go play a video game. I need to relax. I sighed for myself as I moved over to the little console we had. Our GameCube collection had grown a bit, despite the fact that it was still an incredibly old system. Hassao was always picking up new used games from the video game shop that he passed on the way home from work. Alright, have fun. I gotta get dressed for work. Being an assistant manager in a grocery store sucks. Dealing with a bunch of stupid kids in high school. He griped as he walked into the bedroom again, getting dressed in his work uniform. Old man Hassao complaining about those whippersnappers again. I teased and he threw a sock at my head from the bedroom door directly to my right. I dodged it with a laugh, looking through our games. Metroid Prime? Metroid Prime. I hadn't played that one in a while, and I needed that 100% completion. You're getting that Metroid Prime up in this motherfucker. But it's a good game. Not that I've 100%ed it, but I do own the trilogy. Ooh, the trilogy. At least I have air conditioner blasting all day. One thing that's good about it being a chain. I sort of envied that. I kind of wanted to turn up the air conditioner all the way while Hassao was out, but when the electric bill came in, Hassao would be kind of angry if it was way over what he designated as a limit. His parents still helped with the apartment, but as time went on, he found a decent job in the meantime while studying. They started paying for less. Become a man already. Pay the damn rent, his dad complained over the phone to him. So far, we paid a third of the rent and all the utilities and groceries between our combined pay. It wasn't bad, honestly. We were comfortable. Oh, also, Hassao said as he exited the bedroom, wearing a short-sleeved collared shirt with a tie. Over his shoulder was his blue thin coat that he designated him as assistant manager. I kind of didn't want to bring this up, but I have a reason for asking you to come to the beach. I probably shouldn't have asked otherwise. I locked onto a bar door and hit it with a missile, revealing a new path. Okay. Oh? Sal seemed kind of nervous. The reason I'm going is because Iwanako invited me. You know how we started texting instead of sending letters back and forth? She wants to see how I've been. I put down the controller and glanced in with a sort of sharp glare that neither of us was aware I had. The two's correspondence since a couple years ago had improved, and the letters became more frequent, and eventually it became occasional text messages. Why'd you say yes? He sighed. Because... I don't know. Come on, I want you to come... Because in case she tries pulling anything funny, I have used protection. That's why I want Kenji and Lily to come too. I folded my arms and pouted. This was getting more and more complicated as it went. As it was, I was uncomfortable with random passerby gawking and making a debacle of my scars. Now I had to worry about a person where mutual romantic feelings were involved in the past. What if she made fun of me? I felt that heat rise up in my chest again. Don't worry, Hana. If she starts causing problems, I'll just tell Kenji she's a feminist. He'll run her out fast and you can say conspiracy. Okay, you got me laughing. I sighed at him, pausing my game and walking toward him. I gave him a kiss on the lips. He placed his forehead against mine while we hugged for a little while. Have fun at work, okay? Although I worked a lot, my schedule was kind of sporadic, generally based on when I was needed rather than a schedule. A lot of the time was worked opposite each other's schedules. Staff forced a smile. If you call dealing with kids and disgruntled consumers fun, I will have tons of it. I pinched his rear as he walked toward the door. Yeah. He waved as he exited the apartment and closed the door behind him. First thing I did after he left was grab my cell phone and start going through my contacts as fast as possible. Lily. I needed some help here. I found the name pretty quickly and dialed. She picked up pretty fast. Hello? Lily, I really need some advice. Lily was quiet for a moment, then spoke. Involving Sal? I nodded, even though I was on the phone. Yeah. About the beach? He already invited you? Yes, I'm currently in the area for a few weeks for the summer, and he asked me around when I arrived, about a week ago. I groaned into the phone. He just asked if I wanted to go. Just asked. About 10 minutes ago. And told me Iwanako was the one who invited him. Yes? As plaintive as ever, Lily. I was a little agitated, which was something new of an emotion to feel for me involving a relationship. I like how I was the last he asked, about 4 days from the weekend of the plans. Lily chuckled softly. My, aren't you getting flustered? This is a bit new from you. You've gone a lot since we last talked, haven't you? You really should more often. Yeah, it has been a while, but I'm really worried about this whole beach thing. I almost had an anxiety attack a little while ago because of it, Lily. It's been years since I've had one. Lily's voice seemed contemplative at this statement. Because of your scars or because of Iwanako? Both, honestly. I've never worn a swimsuit before because people make fun of me with clothes on, never mind with a swimsuit. The South said the beach was supposed to be fairly private, despite being a public beach. Only a few people go to it, so you shouldn't have to worry too much about people staring. I sighed a little. That feels like a slightly minor problem. I do work at a social workers firm. A lot of people have stared. I've gotten able to ignore it. I don't know. The concept of Iwanako, someone who used to be important to Sal being there, seeing me, judging the person who we chose over her. I paused for a moment. I just feel like she's going to be bitter and say some really hurtful things. Things I don't really want to hear, and I don't know what kind of swimsuit to buy. I was going to hope to turn this discussion into, can you help me pick one out? I admitted guiltily. Lily laughed on the other side of the phone. If she winds up bitter and insulting, you should take it as a compliment. It means she's jealous of you and the fact that he loves you instead of her. That was one way of looking at it. And as Sal was always telling me to look beautiful, shouldn't his words be the only ones that mattered anyway? I sighed. All right, between you and Sal, I can't help but look at this in a positive way. I'm still nervous, though. That's entirely understandable, dear. Akira's with me. She was just saying she wanted to go for a drive. Where do you live again? I've only visited a handful of times. I can't remember the address for the life of me. A graceful chuckle. Used to wish a lot I was like Lily sometimes. Sometimes I still did. Always taking things with grace and balance while I teetered along the edge of panic and delirium. Dealing with something as simple as going to the beach with my boyfriend. I told her the address and she agreed to head over soon while Hassan was out of work. 2 days later, I received a call from one of my supervisors. Hanako, the boss is calling you in. Nothing else from the phone. No explanation. It was my serious as stone supervisor. Is something wrong? Why does the boss want me? I could hear in the background people talking and the printing of paper. The company was busy, always busy and buzzing with work. Well, the girl you counseled, Takara, she had a serious breakdown. The workers of the orphanage found out she was hurting herself. She refuses to talk to anyone other than you, Hanako. Boss wants you in as soon as possible. Can you do it? We can try something else if you're not available. Although he said he could find someone else, his tone encouraged that I not decline. I glanced at the video game I was playing. Well, I was saving the world from Metroid Prime, but I think that world could wait a little. Hanako... Frig. Takara's world was a little more important to me right now. I paused, turned off the television, walked into the bedroom Hanako... Frig! Sal and I shared. I started digging through the dressers, grabbing a ruffled blouse and a ribbon from on top of it. No, I can be there in 20 minutes. 5 to get dressed, 5 to 10 to arrive, 10 to get there. Give or take 5 minutes. I started pulling off my shirt and put the phone on speaker. Good. We all appreciate it. We've been tearing our hair out over this girl. We didn't think we'd actually have to call you. I couldn't seem to get the shirt on right. I was rushing a little and having a bit of trouble talking on the phone while putting on a shirt. No, don't worry. I'm glad I'm needed and can be of use. That's why I started working with you guys, so I can be useful. I finally got the shirt on right and started tying the light purple ribbon around my tall collar into a bow. All right, see you when you get here. She's in your room waiting when you get here. He hung up the phone and I put it into the coat I just donned. I ran into the bedroom and into the living room, grabbing my notepad and the quarter I used as a pen. A clip dangled from my mouth, which I used to pin my bangs on my eyes. Just as I was about to change out of the apartment, Hanako called after me. Pants, darling, or skirt, whatever you want to put on. I glanced down and realized that I'd forgotten I was only wearing my panties because we were still in the middle of a heat wave. Oh, thanks. I brushed by his sow as he stuck a spoonful of peanut butter in his mouth. You better not put that spoon back in the jar after it's been in your mouth. The sow smelled like an idiot. Like this? His voice was sort of lispy from all the peanut butter in his mouth. He jammed the spoon into the jar. So gross. I slipped on a pair of black slacks that could breathe easily and grabbed a pair of flats from the closet that looked business-like but comfortable. Have fun. Sounds like you got a little bit of a case on your hands. I ran into the bedroom again, this time fully clothed. Yeah. Was all I felt I had time to say as I kissed Sal on the cheek and ran out. I had to catch the train. Thankfully, I had a very small wallet in this jacket that I only kept for the sake of train fare, so I didn't have to worry about fumbling for money. While I rode the train toward my company, I glanced out the window. I tried not to look at the people who occasionally stared at me while I rode the train. I glanced down at the scarring on the back and side of my hand. Scars, a daily reminder of the sacrifices made to preserve my life. One that I was living for myself and for Sal. I thought about Takara, the little girl who I was going in to talk to. She and the others like her were the reason I was starting to get a degree that I could become a social worker, so I could study and take the licensing test and become a proper social worker, one who could make a real difference in these kids' lives. When I arrived at the company, I didn't waste any time. A few people said hello, and I nodded quickly to them, moving toward my office. I opened the door, and Takara was sitting at my desk, looking at a small picture I kept there, one with 2 pictures. One of myself with Sal holding hands, Lily standing beside us. The other was a half-burned, hard-to-make-out picture of me as a child with my 2 parents. The picture was so badly scorched you couldn't make out the faces of my parents, but I was still visible, just like in real life. They had been consumed by the flames, and I had been left in the ashes. I used to hate that picture, but I sort of grew attached to it over the couple years. It was one of the few things that survived the blaze. Is this the person that loves you, even with your scars? The little girl asked, turning the frame toward me. She looked bitter, jealous even. Her right arm was wrapped in bandages. I smiled at the picture of Hassan and myself close together. It was taken a summer ago. That's him. He's a wonderful person. I wouldn't be here without him. Takara turned it back toward herself. Her eyes were empty. How it pained to see eyes like those. They reminded me of my own, the eyes that greeted me in the mirror every single day of my life until Sal entered it. I sat down on a beanbag chair opposite her. It was kind of funny seeing her sitting at my desk and myself sitting where the person I counseled sat. So, you've been asking to talk to me specifically, Takara. Is it okay if I record this? I have to ask every time by law, so sorry if it gets repetitive. She shrugged. It's fine. I placed down my recorder on the desk, turning it on to make sure I had a fresh mini-tape in it. So what was it you wanted to talk about? Takara was silent, but silence sometimes was good. In that silence you could learn a lot about a person, as much as if they were talking. How they moved, how they held themselves, their posture. Their posture related to their self-esteem, and their expressions spoke their mind without a single word. You seem really upset. I finally broke the silence. Takara seemed to shoot me a look as if to say, should I be happy? I gave a stilted smile. No, but you shouldn't be unhappy. That's what I want to help with. I want to make it so you can stop being unhappy. Takara seemed confused that I could read her. Are you a psychic or a spy? I laughed for a moment, but shook my head. The little girl glared at me suspiciously. Psychic spy? No, just good at reading people. These scars did a good job at keeping people away. I watch people a lot, trying to learn if there's anything I could do to make up for my scars. But there was really nothing. Takara seemed to hang on my every word. I was beginning to think that she didn't want to talk, but she wanted to listen. She wanted to know what sort of spell I had cast to put myself, an orphan like her, with a troubled past like hers, in the good place I've been. People tried pitying me, tried to take care of me, rescue me. People wanted to be my knight. They wanted to be my hero. I just wanted to be accepted. I paused for a moment. Do you feel that way too, Takara? She nodded slowly. So that's a yes. I dictated so that the recording would be clear when I went over it later and my memory was a bit cloudier. What people don't accept you, Takara? At this, her eyes darkened a bit. Everyone. I gave a soft, worn laugh. She glared at me. That's not true. I accept you, for whatever you are, want to be, or become. She sighed a little. That isn't enough, Miss Ikazawa. She wound up hopping out of my seat into a beanbag near me, laying on it like a bed. It wasn't until she was closer to me that I realized how thin and gaunt she looked. Some of the other kids in my orphanage make fun of me. I get sick. I'm always so weak and I get bullied. They steal my snacks and my toys. I wasn't sure why exactly she was always sick or weak, though. There was a long silence, then Takara spoke again. One of the workers of the orphanage called me a dope baby. What's that mean, Miss Ikazawa? I frowned a little. It means you are or were addicted to the same drugs that your mom was. How long did she breastfeed you? Takara hugged her ragged teddy bear close to her chest. It was probably the only toy they didn't steal from her because of how worn it was. Her eyes had dark bags under them and her lips were thin. The little details, ones that were hard to notice, were becoming apparent. Up until she died, we sometimes couldn't afford food, so she did her best to make sure I was fed, even a little. Her mother died only a few weeks ago. If her mother had been using drugs for a long time, this child had been exposed to the same chemicals for a long time and was experiencing compromised immune systems, chronic weakness, and withdrawals. I've seen scary things that shouldn't exist. That's what the doctors tell me. Hallucinations as a result of withdrawals. It must have been over by now, but she still was suffering from a weakened immune system. That weakened immune system, paired with malnutrition, left her a mess. All she wanted probably was a friend, someone to accept her. Even if it was one person, I know it would give her strength to cope with all the other people. It did for me. If I could provide her that little bit of hope, that light, she could find the strength in herself eventually, too. I'm sure the doctors knew about her malnutrition and her immune systems. Did they give you medicine? She made a face. They taste bad, huh? They taste bad, huh? She nodded and I laid on my side on my own beanbag facing her. Well, those pills will make you better. From what I've read about you, they don't think you have any problems with your brain. No one wants to take certain kinds of pills because they're afraid it'll change them. Does that scare you? Have you seen other kids change because of the pills? Takara nodded, burying her chin in the teddy bear she held. Don't worry, it won't happen to you. But if you don't take your pills, you won't get any better. You'll keep getting sick and you'll never get bigger or stronger. The concept of always being as small and weak as she was seemed to frighten her. Promise? She asked, extending a pinky. A sacred promise to me, those pinky promises. I wondered if they meant the same to her. Of course, I said, wrapping mine around hers. And how about this? Do you want to meet the guy who made my life better? She seemed to contemplate the question, then nodded. Well, we're all going to the beach. Me, Hisao, and some of his friends. We'll ask the people at the orphanage if it's okay, and I'll ask my boss if it's okay too. If we're lucky, you'll get to come with us and have fun with people who will accept you. Takara didn't seem to believe that. Why would they? She finally asked. I smiled. They're all a little broken like us. Asao has a heart condition. My best friend is blind. Asao's friend is almost completely blind. He's the craziest person I've ever met. At the word crazy, she seemed to reconsider the offer a little. I laughed. Don't worry, he's nice. He just seems crazy because he doesn't think like us. So they're all like us? I nodded. Each of them have had really sad times in their lives. Each of them. Just like you and me. I promise you'll have fun. We'll build sand castles and swim and eat hot dogs and it'll be fun. If you stop hurting yourself and be really good, we'll do it more often. I'm sure you can see me more often, and we can turn these little talks into really fun times together. We can talk at the beach, we could talk at my house, we could even talk while playing at the park. I'd like that. I smiled at Takara. Your name means treasure, doesn't it? She nodded slowly. Mommy used to call me her little treasure. That's why she named me that. Even though Daddy didn't love me or her, she wanted to know that I was a treasure, like gold. I reached over to her, patting her hand. You are a treasure. Our talk continued for a while until she decided she was willing to go back home to her orphanage. I handed my recorder to my supervisor, the same one who had called me. He was a registered social worker, 5 or 10 years older than me. He had a hard expression, a long, thin face, and a pair of small circular glasses. You want to take her to the beach? His tone was sharp as ever. Talking to him was always a little scary. I nodded. It's part of what I'm trying with her. Listen to the recording and please get back to me. I think it'd really help. I feel like I made some good progress with it today. He adjusted his glasses and looked at me in a strange way. You're a very unorthodox counselor. Do they teach you to act this way in the university? He seemed very serious all the time. I shook my head. I guess I'm being a little progressive? He sighed, but conceded. Nothing else had been helping, he said. It was better to take a shot in the dark than not to be able to do anything at all. I'll talk to the boss and see if we can work something out if this recording is what you say. I nodded, and on the ride home I tried jotting down as much as I could before I forgot. It seeing as I had given my recording over to my supervisor, we could convince our boss to let me take the little girl to the beach. The day of our little beach get-together came a bit faster than I'd wanted. My supervisor had shown up at my apartment with Takara in tow. Apparently my recording was good enough, and they thought, although straying from the norm, my very personal approach could work well with Takara. So, were you and Miss Ekozawa married? Takara asked Asao. He laughed a little, shaking his head. No, we aren't, but I'm sure we love each other as much as some married couples do. I felt myself blushing a little. My supervisor was sitting on our couch, listening in while reading a book. I knew what he was doing. He was doing what we were all paid to do, our job, which was listen. He was trying to figure out as much about the two of us from today as he could, just so he could dismantle us and know any flaws and shortcomings our relationship might have. He was an odd one. And what do you do? Because Miss Ekozawa helps people and says you're a really important person to her. Do you help people too? Her expression was so blank and so was her tone, but I could tell she had a real interest in Asao. I do, but in a different way. I'm learning to make medicine in school so I can become a special kind of doctor. I won't treat patients directly, but come up with new kinds of medicine to help people. She looked at him with those dark green eyes of hers. You two are real saints, huh? I heard my supervisor ask. I sighed. I didn't really have anything to say to that. We help people because we wanted to. Not to be righteous or anything. It's just what we wanted to do. It was like asking, you really like breathing, huh? When's Lily getting here, Asao? I asked, holding his hand. She managed to text us a little... Wait, who's saying this? She managed to text us a little while ago. Akira's driving her and coming with. Should be about 10 minutes from now. My supervisor, Tomo, seemed interested in the other people going. Who else is coming with this little extravaganza? Asao answered before I could. An old friend of mine named Nobunaga, Lily and Kenji. High school friends of mine from Yamako. My supervisor cut in. The school for the crippled? Asao frowned heavily at him. For Hanako's sake, you're rather rude and disrespectful. I patted Asao on the shoulder. Please don't cause a fight. Tomo flipped the page of his book quietly. It looked like he was reading Pride and Prejudice in English. It's a school for the disabled, Asao said, putting emphasis on disabled. Crippled. They had very negative connotations to them, and the people from that school are good people. Akira's Lily's sister. They're both also coming with. Tomo didn't seem as interested as he originally let on and didn't respond. Mr. Izini, I guess that's how you say that. It's Japanese, of course. Izini is mean, Takara eventually said in that blunt, flat voice of hers. He's just different, not mean. I think. I don't think he intended to come off as mean, which was different in my book. Eventually the doorbell rang, which I was thankful for. The awkward silence and Hasao's dislike for my supervisor was causing an air of discomfort, although Takara was pretty content while exploring the apartment and trying out my video games. I walked to the front door, letting the others in. Ho! It's nice and cool in here. Didn't think you guys would have an air conditioner. Akira's eyes turned toward Hasao, who was reaching into the fridge for a cool drink. Hey there, Hasao. No, long time no see. You're looking pretty good for a guy with a heart condition. How's all that nerd stuff going for you at university? Hasao grinned a little at Akira. She was wearing a t-shirt that said something in English and denim shorts. It looked like her shirt had something to do with a foreign beer brand. Well, it's going pretty good. I know enough about different chemicals to make a pretty nasty nerve agent if I wanted to. But, you know, the usual nerd stuff. Akira laughed half-heartedly, and I slapped him playfully on the arm. Don't be a jerk. Tomo seemed to raise his eyebrows at this statement, halfway worriedly. I think Hasao made that remark on purpose. Lily was wearing a light jacket and small denim shorts over her bikini, and I was immediately reminded of the fact that I was wearing mine underneath the baggy tee that belonged to Hasao, and my own pair of shorts. My, sounds like we have a lot of people in here today. A child, Hasao, and Hanako, and someone reading a book on the couch. Someone who doesn't smell familiar either. Tomo closed his book and glanced toward her blind friend. What are you, a bloodhound? She smiled in a somewhat devious way. I've been told I bite like one. How risque, Lily. Well, Tomo said, not having a response to that. Not sure who you are, but you better not think you can mess with my sister. I will knock you out, you skinny punk. Akira, always on the offensive. I sighed. Geez, Tomo, why are you such an unlikable social worker? Must have been the fact that you work with a service in our company that only Let's try that one again. Must have been the fact that he worked with the service center company that mainly dealt with family separations and deciding whether families ought to be separated, where those children should go, and who was responsible enough to do so. I had heard from a couple people at the company that he used to be a really nice guy, but after a while he just started shutting down. His smile vanished, his demeanor became hard, and he sort of devolved into a grumpy person who often came off as rude. It was probably because of his position in the company. Having to split up that many children, to be blamed for families being torn apart even when they needed to be, that was a burden he always carried, and I'm sure it weighed down on him. That was why I always talked to him whenever I got the chance. I hoped a little I could break past that shell of his. This is my supervisor, Ayane Tomo. My boss allowed me to take a little girl out counseling so long as my supervisor, supervises, I said with a small laugh. He'll be coming with us today to the beach. I hate beaches, Tomo said. I sighed. What a sourpuss, Akira responded. Why don't you just say you hate fun? She added. I do. I felt myself laughing. He was a poorly written character, one you just couldn't like. But he was my boss. I had to deal with him so I could help Takara. We all got into the car, Takara on my lap because we were short one seat. You know, Hanako, Akira said while she adjusted the rearview mirror and glanced at me with a single burgundy eye. What's up? I played with Takara's teddy bear arm, making him do a little dance that caused Takara to giggle a little bit. Actually, nothing. Don't worry. I wondered what she was going to say. Lily laughed a little to herself. Was there something I missed? I glanced at Hasao, who looked at me with a smile and a shrug. It seemed like he was playing dumb, though, and everyone else was sharing some kind of inside joke. Then we arrived at the beach. Kenji had already arrived and was sitting on a cooler, looking like the angriest gargoyle defending his cooler cathedral. He was sitting on the sidewalk of the parking lot facing toward us. Even though it was the summer and he was wearing swim trunks, he still wore his red and gold scarf around his neck. Oh, Kenji! Oh, Kenji! Yeah. Oh my god, Kenji! Whatever. We all followed out of the car, the two of us approaching him. Hey, Kenji! Sal said, wondering if he was catatonic or something. He was sitting completely still, arms folded, completely unmoving. He didn't even turn his head our way. Then I heard something a little soft. A snore. He's asleep, Hasao. Hasao laughed pretty loudly at this and placed a hand on Kenji's shoulder. Hey, Kenji, if you sleep in the open like this, you're going to wake with a knife in your back and from some feminists who pass you by and realize you'll be the last bastion of hope against the feminist invasion. At these words, he seemed to snap awake.
I thought I heard the voice of a comrade.
Hasao chuckled a bit. Yeah, what's up, Kenji? Where's your lady friend? Kenji coughed a little. His breath still smelled faintly of garlic, but not as strongly.
Oh, she's working. Couldn't come. Feminists are holding her down. She's planning to break the chain of command, though. Also, it sounds like there's a lot of women around. I assume you screen them properly and then no feminists in the midst?
I shook my head at this absurdity, but Sal also seemed to enjoy it. Like it was some kind of surreal play, and he was one of the lead roles. Absolutely, I interrogated each of them thoroughly and they're part of our cause. Also, why are you wearing your scarf in the middle of the summer? Kenji adjusted his enormous glasses.
The threads of my scarf are interwoven with nanomachines in them.
Sal nodded slowly.
Nanomachines, huh?
Kenji returned his nod.
Yes, I'm not at liberty to discuss that, though. Military stuff. Need to know clearance.
Aha! Also, the cooler's filled with anti-feminist supplies, right?
Wait.
Oh, no, wait. Mother. Aha! Also, the cooler's filled with anti-feminist supplies, right? I asked, deciding to try my hand at joining the nonsense.
Oh, hey there, bacon bits. Didn't see you there. And now it's filled with booze. I brought some pansy drinks for you girls who don't share my comrade and myself's tolerance for whiskey and scotch.
I was a little insulted at having been called bacon bits. I was about to tell him off, but a Sal smacked him in the back of the head. Somehow his glasses didn't come off. Akira, having heard the magic words from Kenji, came over. Hey, I will drink you under the table, buddy. I drink things so hard that if I burp at you, you wake up with a hangover the next day. Lily seemed disapproving of such a speech, though. Akira, you're never going to get married if you keep acting like such a man. Akira laughed. It's okay. My boyfriend is pretty much a little girl. It works out in some kind of way. Sal glanced at Tomo, who seemed rather taken aback by all the discussions going on. These are my friends, Tomo. I wonder where Hanako is. She said she'd be here. He looked up and down the beach casually, and a silence descended over the group. It was probably because they could sense my displeasure at the name. Hisao? My boyfriend turned around quickly to see a mature-looking woman in a black bikini with a slightly revealing sting top and bottom. Only one word came to mind. Slut. Even if I was calling her a slut, I had to concede that she was definitely attractive. Long dark hair pulled into a side ponytail and round umber eyes. Iwanako? Sal asked, unsure. It had been a long time since he'd last seen her, so he probably had no idea what she'd look like if she changed at all. She had a soft-served ice cream cone in her hand. She quickly glanced toward myself and the little girl whose hand I was holding. Is that? She began, a little confused. Sal smiled. That's my girlfriend, Hanako. Little girl is someone she's counseling. She's part of a social work company the city over. Iwanako smiled at me, extending the hand. Nice to meet you. Sal's told me a lot about you. I took her hand, shaking it firmly. Good things, I hope, I said, trying out an attempt at humor with someone who felt like my arch-nemesis. Instead, it came out sounding somewhat threatening. Of course, he very much cares about you. Of course, he cares very much about you. I'm glad he found someone like you after the incident. And you're all friends from Yumaku, I assume? She asked, looking toward Achilles. Now it's really starting to get bad. She asked, looking toward Lily, Akira, Kenji, and Tomo. I'm also a worker from... Alright. Fuck. I'm also a worker from... Motherfuck! I don't know who's talking. I'm also a worker from Hanako's company. I'm here on business, Tomo answered. Kenji glanced in the general direction of Iwanako, reflecting the beach's bright sun off of the surface... reflecting the beach's bright sun off of the surface into her eyes. I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not, but I enjoyed the cringing effect that had on her.
So you're that skirt who gave Hanako... Not Hanako, god damn it! That's how his condition, huh?
He asked. I almost said Hanako again. Sal laughed weakly. She didn't give it to me, Kenji. I had it before, but never knew. She kinda confessed and I had an attack. Sal informed his companion.
Oh yeah? Sounds like some sort of feminist attack. They probably have charts. Charts, Sal. They were studying you. They sent this girl to assassinate you, and now she's here to finish the job after all the years. And they have puppets.
That wasn't there, by the way. Is he okay? Iwanako asked Sal. He nodded. He's always like this. And Kenji, I already said no feminist spies have infiltrated us. It was an accident. Sal's words seemed to placate our paranoid friend, and he nodded.
Okay, I'm only sparing you from my full optic blast because...
Oh god, the optic blast!
Okay, I'm only sparing you from my full optic blast because not Hanako. Sal's vouching for you. Me and him, we go way back. We've seen some shit. Fought some crazy battles. He disarmed bombs, you know.
I haven't disarmed any bombs, Kenji.
But that one time...
Kenji assured. But Hisao shook his head. Takara laughed.
Your friends are really funny, Miss Ikusawa.
I nodded, squeezing her hand a little. They are. So we should really set up the blankets and an umbrella or two. Everyone nodded, and Hanako seemed to gravitate toward Hisao while he helped us all set up. Lily could sense my annoyance and placed a hand on my shoulder. Just remember who he comes home to at the end of the night. She winked at me, and I couldn't help but smile a little. Yeah, I'm kind of scared to take off my shirt. I feel kind of embarrassed wearing the swimsuit you and Akira helped me pick out. Akira clasped a hand on my back. Don't feel that way. Hisao's eyes will be stuck to you all day, and it'll be even better when you two get home. I nudged my side, and I sighed. What are they talking about, Miss Ikusawa? I pat her on the head. Nothing. Just call me Hana, Takara. It's good to be polite, but we're all friends here. She nodded and decided to lay down on one of the blankets, enjoying the sunlight. She was smiling a lot more, and she'd laughed a lot while playing with Hisao. For a 10-year-old, she had the mentality of a 5 or 6-year-old, even if her cognitive ability had been forced to mature with her experiences. She really just wanted to be cared about and be around people who she felt comfortable with. To her, we were all broken souls with our own secret, dark pasts. We were beacons of hope because we were all happy and all the cracks had been filled with each other. Hisao laid down on a beach towel, Iwanako on his right. They were chatting a lot, and he had removed his shirt early while setting up our towels and umbrellas and food. Lily and Akira had brought actual food, so we were sitting down and eating because it was close to lunch. I could see Iwanako's eyes straying to Hisao's chest and the scar he wore. A somewhat pained expression crossed her face. I knew why. She blamed herself for what happened to Hisao. He would tell her it wasn't, but she still felt guilty. It was easy to see. And part of me wanted to say she was going to act that way so Hisao would pity her and try to make her feel better. As much as I wanted to interject, it would probably be more mature if I just let two old friends catch up. I had my own friend to catch up with, one I cared about deeply. Lily had been in and out a couple of relationships she informed me, not having found any that stuck. It was somewhat sad to hear, but because when Hisao and I started dating, I had a sneaking suspicion that she had feelings for him, but then let him go because she'd rather I be with him instead. I think that was the only act of pity I ever accepted during the course of my life. If she hadn't, I feel like I would have lost a person who was incredibly important to me, a person who gave me a reason to improve instead of loathe myself every morning I woke. Instead, I decided to listen in on a conversation that Tomo got into Akira when he finally dodged Kenji, who seemed to be trying to recruit him into the ranks of the Feminist Resistance Force, or whatever he called it. He wound up bumping into Akira on accident while he was glancing at his book, to which she got kind of annoyed. I overheard her asking for an apology, one I doubted Tomo was going to give. How do you get off being so rude? Didn't anyone ever teach you manners? Akira asked, to which Tomo glared at her from over spectacles. Manners are pointless. They get you nowhere. I know that fairly well. Akira seemed confused at the statement, and even I was curious. I silently eavesdropped on him. That's just your opinion, and it's a rude one. You don't have to be an ass every time you meet someone. I could see something boiling underneath Tomo's skin. And idealism isn't the same as realism. You haven't seen the kind of reality I have. Akira scoffed. Oh yeah? Try me, big shot. Tomo donned a scowl. I've had to go with police to take people's children from them forcibly. I've been working with my heart to protect people and give them better lives. Instead, I've been threatened, I've been hated, I've been attacked. His voice cut through the air, and Akira seemed to be upset that he had to deal with that. Not that his tone would make it sound like he was attacking her. I've watched mothers kill their children rather than be taken by the company I work for so they could be given better lives. Babies fed poisoned formula, fathers stabbing me when I arrived and confronted them after multiple complaints from their neighbors who had heard the beatings and arguments. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Tomo, you've been through a lot, but you don't need to act that way with us. We're all friends. Just lighten up and enjoy yourself. Maybe we could get coffee some other day. You sound like you need someone to talk to. I offered, to which he seemed surprised. He wasn't expecting me to interject. He was getting so focused on his memories and the things that haunted him. Why should I? I smiled on him. Because letting those kind of things fester will only make you unhappier. At least let me help, or listen. Surprisingly, he gave a bitter smile. I think I'm seeing what the boss does in you. You're hard to deny, he said, sighing, turning toward Akira, his eyes darting away. I'm sorry. How many times had he said those words to the parents who he took the children from? How many times had he heard himself say it, only to be greeted with harsh words? Maybe we should talk sometime, Hanako. Although with the things he said brought him to a sad place, he looked a little lighter. Yeah, maybe we should. I mean, you feel a little better getting all that off your chest, huh? We can keep it off the record, too, I told him with a laugh. Yeah. Yeah, let's just get along, okay? We were supposed to be having fun, right, big guy? She asked with a boisterous laugh and slapped me on the back. Yeah. It was about then that the sound of a bottle of liquor being opened caught Akira's attention. I glanced over and saw that Kenji was already busting up the alcohol, to which Akira whooped at. He was passing out a couple of whiskey glasses, pouring some of the hard drink for those who wanted them. I approached him and reached into the cooler, finding a wine cooler for me to drink. Yeah, he reached into the cooler, finding a wine cooler for me to drink. No, I don't want that. What's some of that harder stuff you got? Maybe a little alcohol of higher variety will help me loosen up. Not care as much. I didn't want to have an anxiety attack or anything.
Ah, yeah, Toasty. Stepping up, drinking with the men now. I got scotch, whiskey, and a pint of bourbon.
I guess the scotch, I said, completely ignoring his annoying nicknames for me. He scooped some ice out of the cooler with the glass and poured some scotch into it for me. I sipped it. It went down smooth, but the afterburn it left in my chest was painful and made me cringe a little. It wasn't bad, though. It had a nice taste, at least, for being so potent. It was like I was breathing fire after a few sips. Takara was given a juice box and a wrap sandwich from the cooler and started building a sandcastle while we all chatted and enjoyed the initial relaxation of our little beach party. Everyone was talking with each other and enjoying one another's company. Lily, Akira, and Takara were chatting. Kenji seemed to have his sights locked on Otomo for discussing his conspiracy, and Iwanako and Asao were still talking, catching up. After drinking half of that short glass of scotch, I was feeling really warm. I really wanted to swim. For a second, my head wanted to tell me I didn't, because doing so would require me to remove my clothes and reveal my scars to the person who might try and use them against me, to turn Asao against me. But my mind was kind of cloudy, and the mist filling the space between my ears said differently. It'll be fine, the fog told me. I put down the glass on the sand and stretched a bit. I'm going for a swim, okay? Tomo, keep an eye on Takara. Takara had been wandering from person to person after talking with Akira and Lily for a while, getting to know each of them and enjoying the fact that they didn't seem to judge her or treat her differently. She got tired easily. I switched back to She got tired easily, I noticed, and every now and then she'd lay down beside me on my towel. Aye, aye, Captain, he responded, turning into the page of his book while trying to ignore Kenji's light rants. I reached toward the bottom of my shirt, pulling up and over my head. I unbuttoned my shorts, letting them fall to the ground. Sure, Iwanako had her little skimpy string bikini. But I was feeling confident all of a sudden. I knew my body, and I knew it was something that Asao loved. The bikini that Akira and Lily helped me choose was a bandeau top, a strapless one that wrapped around me, and a skirt bottom that had a slit in the side and revealed some of my hip. I picked up my glass and walked into the water by myself. As I walked across the warm sands, I wondered whose feet I was using, because they sure didn't belong to the same Hanako I used to be. I wouldn't have stepped so confidently toward the water, all by myself, even with the aid of a little bit of alcohol. The water greeted my ankles with a warm embrace and then pulled away, inviting me deeper. I walked in until I was up to my abdomen in the warm ocean's water, and then floated on my back, resting on the gentle rocking of the sea. I rested the glass on my stomach as I closed my eyes and let the sun wash over me. The world was such an interesting place. The past mingled with the present and joined with the future. Iwanako became a part of Hasao's life again, but I was his future. We were each other's future. I glanced up at the blueberry skies, wondering how much time had passed since I started floating on the ocean's waves. Staring at the sky, it felt like I was flying. Nothing around me, just the sky and the ocean below me. I closed my eyes and relaxed, enjoying the sun on my skin and the sound of the world. I was so content. I heard the movement of someone through the water and realized that the glass that had been resting on my abdomen was empty. I glanced over and saw, and it was Asao. He kissed me and I smiled. Hey, I said. He had a cocky grin on his face. Iwanako's impressed with you. She said you looked really beautiful walking so confidently into the ocean without even turning around. Something about being independent. I laughed, righting myself and standing in the water facing Asao. So, how do I look? A slight flush crept into my features and placed his hands on my hips, leaning forward and kissing me. How about I let you know what I think later? His hands gripped my hips, and I knew what he was thinking. Sometimes I couldn't keep up with his ridiculous drive. I kissed him teasingly in the lips, just barely slipping my tongue past his as I walked away with a wink. Much to my chagrin, I tripped over a stone on the sand and nearly toppled into the water, having had a bit to drink. Asao burst into laughter, and I rushed out of the water as he charged at me. It looked like Akira had grabbed the volleyball from the car. "Come on, guys, let's play!" Tomo stood up at this remark, removing his shirt. "I'll play," he announced, to which some of our friends afforded the strangest look possible. For such a tall, skinny guy, he was pretty chiseled. Had a few scars, too. "I didn't think a bookworm like you would like volleyball," Akira said as she tossed the ball toward him and moving toward the volleyball net that was a little ways away. I followed. I kind of wanted to try playing. "You'd be surprised what you learn about me. One thing is that I love to win. Winning is the most satisfying thing in the world." Lily looked this horrified, knowing a person who was just like that. Lily and I both realized it at the same time. 2. He's a male Shizune. Almost everyone started laughing, but Tomo paid it no mind. Ultimately, we all had fun, even Tomo. It was the first time I saw him smile and laugh since I started working at the company, so I was happy. Takara and Tomo were both getting things they needed. Maybe the boss told him to supervise, not just to keep an eye on Takara, but for his own good, too. Night started falling, and despite some suggestions of a bonfire, Tomo insisted he get back to our apartment and drive Takara back to the orphanage. We all piled into Akira's car, smelling of sand and sea, content and happy. Iwanako was taking her own car on a long drive back to where she lived and said goodbye to Hisao outside the car while I carried a sleeping Takara. I glanced out the window of the car and Iwanako hugged him, patting him on the shoulder. Although my first instinct was to be possessive, she was probably congratulating him. After Hisao's life had nearly ended, he had managed to make one out of nothing. He got into the car and put his hand on mine while I held the sleeping Takara, and we all got in and put on our seatbelts. He raised it for a second and kissed it gently. We were all tired and much talking wasn't made while we drove about a half hour from the beach to our apartment back in the city. I carried Takara into Tomo's car and closed the door. Before Tomo closed the driver's side, he patted me on the shoulder. "I didn't expect something this mundane to help. Good job. You better study hard and pass the licensing test when you get your degree. I won't forgive you if you don't become a social worker. You have a talent for it. Don't waste it," he said firmly, and I nodded. I don't plan to." As he got in his car, he paused for a second. "And thanks." "For what?" A strange, unusual grin appeared on his face. "Nothing. Tomorrow afternoon, Takara's going to be coming in as a regular for you. We better be having coffee at lunch." Hisao and I got into the apartment and hopped into the shower. After I got out, Hisao decided he wanted to take a shower after I gotten out and was mopping my hair off with a towel, another wrapped around me. "We could have just taken the same shower, you know. If the water bill gets high, it's your fault." "Oh, wait. God damn it. We could have just taken the same shower, you know. If the water bill gets high, it's your fault," Hisao smirked. Yeah, I can still blame you for the electric, though." He got into the shower and I walked into the bedroom, looking for clothes. Even though it was the night, the heat wave prevented the temperature from dropping very much. I opened up Hisao's drawer sneakily. I was going to steal a pair of his boxes to wear a tank top to bed tonight. As I was digging through his underwear drawer looking for the thinnest pair, I found something in the corner of the drawer, hidden by his boxers. A small velvet red box. I felt like my heart stopped. When Hisao got out of the shower to get the salt off his body, he was greeted by me staring at him from the dining room table, the little red box in front of me. Hisao froze in place, the towel around him barely hanging off his waist. "Why do you have that?" "Good, Hisao. No deflections or lies." "Did you look in it?" His voice was a little panicked. I nodded slowly. My face was a deeper red than the box in front of me that I had pressed between my two fingers. My love groaned. "You weren't supposed to see that. That's why I've been having trouble making ends meet the last few months. I was saving for that," he said, looking a little dejected that I had ruined it. "I was waiting, too, for tonight. I wanted to see whether we were ready. Well, both of us. I wanted to test this at the beach today. I wanted to put myself in a place where I could test my emotions." "Iwanako didn't invite you, huh?" Hisao shook his head. "No, I did. I wanted to see if my heart would falter at all if I exposed myself to a person I once had feelings for." That frustrated me a little, but I understood. Why would he buy something like this if his love could change? "I tested you, too. I wanted to see whether you could handle the pressure of dealing with Iwanako on the beach. Your social anxiety, the attacks, your confidence. I don't have any reasons to not do what I'm about to." He reached toward the little red box, and I let him take it from me. He was testing our strength, the two of us. We were always facing our fears together, growing and becoming stronger people every day. We stood by each other's sides. I didn't bother fighting tears at this moment. This was all overwhelming. Hisao knelt down, slowly opening the box and revealing to me the amazing ring that he had bought for me. As he did, though, the towel fell off of him. I don't think he noticed, because he continued on. "Hanako Ikazawa, will you marry me?" I didn't stop crying, nor did the embarrassment of being proposed to fade at all, but I couldn't help but laugh. Isao, you're proposing to me naked. You suck at this so much. He looked down and realized the same thing I was aware of. God damn it! Hold on. Let me just put the towel back on and I'll do it again. I laughed and leaned forward, kissing him. My stupid, goofy, wonderful Isao. I will. And that is the end of part 2. That was a bit annoying. I have to say, that was a bit annoying. But we can go back to Hisao's point of view now. Finally. Part 3. A Touch of White. I never thought there was another 3-word phrase more powerful than I love you. It happens to be, I am engaged. 2 years later, Hanako and I are engaged, and the wedding date is less than a week away. Poor Hanako spends all day on the phone making sure catering services will be there on time, that the food won't be too cheap, that the florists have our arrangements ready, that everyone is RSVP'd. The list of tasks go on and on. Half of them I helped her with, but the recent few months have been participating in less and less of them. Why? Well, shortly after having graduated about 6 months ago, I finally found a job using my degree. I looked at the white lab coat hanging on her coat rack. I was a real certified scientist working for a pharmaceutical company. Better not be Umbrella. Oof. Yeah, I made that reference. Making medicine and hoping to save lives. Muto would be proud. Actually, he was bound to give me a big pat on the back. He had already called ahead to let us know he'd be attending our wedding. As was most of our old friends and classmates, Hanako was going to the ends of the earth ensuring that anyone we knew slightly from high school was attending. Iwanaka was also going to be attending. I'd given her a table with five of the seats to bring any of our old friends in case they wanted to attend. Although I wanted to take time off work to help, the money I'd saved and had been earning was necessary to pay for an expensive wedding, especially seeing as my fiancée was now taking an extended vacation from work as a licensed social worker to make sure all the plans were finalized. Hanako slammed the phone down onto the receiver and I smiled at her a little. What's the matter? She made a frustrated face and turned away from me without saying anything. Don't be like that. It'll make me sad. I wrapped my arms around her from behind and kissed her on the top of the head. A heavy sigh from my wife-to-be. Caterers said they'll be late getting to the chapel. I rested my chin on her head. What about the band and the other stuff? I assume nothing's changed with the open bar? She shook her head. Everything else is fine so far, just the food's going to be late and everyone's going to be hungry in the meantime. I rolled my chin left and right across the top of her head. Actually, didn't you mention something about the band being former Yanamaku students? Hanako nodded enthusiastically. Yeah, I was asking some people where I could find a good band, and one of my friends directed me to a sort of directory. She paused and buried her face in my chest, tightening her grip around me. Hanako was stressed, and she made a habit of using me as a pillow to squeeze whenever she needed. They asked me what high school I was from, and they found that there was actually a band from our school who was registered in their directory. Arched an eyebrow. Oh, yeah? Hanako smiled. They're a jazz band or something. I've only listened to a little jazz, but I contacted them, and the lady running it sent samples. I really like the music, actually. But the goddamn caterers. Wait, who said that? Let's just assume it was Sal. Oh, don't worry about it. Everyone will be too drunk and enjoying the music to care. I'd rather not everyone at our wedding be completely drunk, you know. I laughed a little. I know. Are you a little more calm now, by the way? I have something I need to tell you. Hanako didn't seem to like that phrasing. What do you mean you have something to tell me? This better not be as bad as that, or I'll swear I'll... I kissed her on the lips, unexpectedly, and she blushed. Don't do that. I'm trying to be mad, Hisao. While she tried to be angry at me, I pondered how best to say what I needed to tell her. Whatever. Straightforward approach has always been best. Know how Kenji's been out of touch with me for the last year and a half or so? Hanako nodded, looking even more worried. Well, it looks like he's been getting a business degree and opening his own business. Since he's been so busy, he hasn't gotten in contact with us for a while. Hanako's out told me she wanted me to get to the point. I sighed. Kenji's throwing me a bachelor party, and told me I have no choice but to go. I originally didn't want a bachelor party. One, it worried poor Hanako out of her head what I was doing the night before our wedding, and two, Hanako informed me that our bachelorette party was going to be just her, some old and new friends, for dinner here at the apartment. We were under a kind of unspoken agreement. We both weren't going to do anything reckless. She looked horrified. Why don't you tell him you absolutely can't go? I frowned at that concept. I'd rather not give him reason to chloroform me one morning while I'm jogging and wake up in the trunk of his car being driven to some place where the feminists can't reach us. Hanako bit her thumb a little. Yeah, that's not good either. we at least agree with him, we'll know what he's doing, for the most part. She sounded really dismissive at the for the most part. Please don't do anything bad. The girls in my company tell me all sorts of horrible things about the terrible things that their husbands or ex-husbands did during their bachelor party that they don't tell them about until years later. I can make the promise I wouldn't do anything, but I couldn't promise Kenji wasn't going to make those bad things accessible. No strippers, she demanded, having a hard time getting the word out because of the images put on her mind. I can't make any promises about things like that, sweetheart. I can promise that nothing bad will happen and I'll still marry you the next day. A weak smile from her, but a smile nonetheless. And if it makes you feel any better, I invited Misha to come to my bachelor party. Oh, here we go. Hanako looked more a little confused by the statement. I thought bachelor parties were meant for the guys, I nodded. Apparently she's become one of the guys. When I called her up a little while ago, she told me that she came out. She's playing for my team. I couldn't help but laugh at my own terminology. She's apparently been in love with Shizune for a really long time, but nothing ever developed and she finally moved on. They're still friends, but she's open about herself now. Hanako nodded slowly. Is it strange that I didn't see that coming? I shook my head. I didn't either, so no worries. But she'll make sure to tell you all about the night and whether I behaved. All I could imagine, though, was her getting drunk and probably doing shots off of a stripper's half-naked body while wah-ha-haing at the top of her lungs, not being my chaperone. I'm going to watch a movie. Do you have enough time before you leave for work? Hanako asked, a little pleadingly. I glanced at the clock on the wall, then on the one on my wrist. Well, I don't, I began, but those begging eyes of hers put a smile on my face. I was sitting at the desk behind the couch, so she was just barely peeking over the back of the couch with her deep violet eyes, but I'd love to watch with you for as long as possible. Good, I want to relax. I've been so stressed lately. As I sat down next to her, she cozied up on my lap without asking me. I plopped a pillow on her face. Bet you wish you didn't say yes to me, huh? She lifted the pillow and forced it onto my face. Don't be stupid. You had a yes the minute the towel fell off. I flushed. She had to keep reminding me that, didn't she? It was your fault you had to go and find the ring. She snuggled up, taking the pillow from my face and putting it under her head. As much as I wanted to watch the movie, I wasn't really interested in it. For the next hour, I just wanted to play with Hanako's hair and maybe doze off, catch a few extra winks. Hey, Sal, when did I nod it off? Such an old man, always falling asleep. Hanako told me with a giggle. You've got to get ready for work. I sat up with a bit of a start, but I felt her hand on my chest. Whenever she did that simple motion always calmed me. It brought me back to the day I had shown her my scar and how the constant fear and anxiety that was present on her face melted away. Don't worry, you'll have enough time. Don't worry, you'll have enough time to get there and get ready and drive there. That was a bit of relief. I thought I'd overslept and Hanako would have been too into the movie to let me know. As she was removing her hand from my chest, I placed my hand into it, keeping it gently placed there. You all right? She must have thought I had been worried about the state of my heart lately. I've had a couple flutters, but nothing that wasn't unusual. I've gone to my doctors regularly. My ex has been the same as ever, although I've been resisting pushing my limits for the sake of my safety. I'd rather not die before my wedding day, after all. I'm wonderful, just thinking about how when I first showed you my scar. She smiled knowingly. Hanako removed her hand and instead placed her head side next to my heart. You made me so happy that night, you know. I held her tightly. You think that... Wait, who's saying this? It's probably Sal saying this. You made me so happy that night, you know. I held her tightly. You think then you'd believe about 5 years later we'd be getting married? She looked up from my chest at me with eyes that made my heart ache, in a good way. Can I be honest? I grinned at her. Uh-oh, secrets? I knew there wasn't anything really to be afraid of, but I feigned worry. It's not a big deal. I nodded, waiting. I thought you would have gotten bored of me by now, or found someone you liked better. I was actually a little surprised by this. I kept telling myself that eventually you'd just get tired to realize I was boring or ugly or something, but you never did. And I couldn't help but wonder what you'd seen in me. I opened my mouth to tell her off, but she clasped her hand over my face roughly. I'm not done yet. She removed her hand and continued. After a while, I started seeing what you saw, and started believing it, too. I found confidence, a career, friends. Even though I still think I'm boring and play too many video games and spend too much time on the computer, you still love me for it. I kissed her on the top of the head and got up. Of course I do, so don't you ever change or dislike who you are. For a moment, all we could do was smile and enjoy one another's gaze. Sadly, I had to go. I should get going, though, as much as I'm enjoying our tender moment. Hanako stuck her tongue out and as I threw on my collar shirt, wrapping a tie around my collar. Hanako watched me intently. Want me to help out? I shook my head at my fiancée. I honestly never was good with ties, despite our uniform having a tie. It was a well-kept secret that I wore a clip-on. But I was learning. She continued watching as I successfully donned my tie without even having to use a mirror. She giggled. You're improving. I always wondered why she was so good at tying ties, but apparently she had an unusual taste for older fashioned ties and bow ties. I couldn't complain. I loved her fashion. She was a very classy gal for someone who was getting married to a nerd like me. I grabbed the keys off the coffee table after tucking my shirt into my dark blue slacks. I'll see her later tonight, if only for a little while before Kenji kidnaps me. I kissed her on the lips as my hands grasped blindly for my keys somewhere on the table. I was honestly more interested in the fact that her hands were wandering around to the back of my head and keeping me from pulling away. I need to go, I whispered into her lips as she reluctantly let go of me. Okay. A slight frown. When you get back later, the girls will probably be over. I nodded. Who again? Just so I have an idea when I walk in. She thought a little. Well, Lily, obviously. Apparently she made up with Shizune that they've been trying to get along, so Shizune will be coming. Akira will be too. Some people from my work will be showing up, I think I mentioned that. Ren managed to call me, and she said she'd bring a painting as a wedding gift. I tried to invite her and Emmy to the get-together, but she said something weird and declined. I shrugged. That's fine, I suppose. I'd at least like to thank Emmy for keeping me in shape, though. I grabbed my lab coat and draped it over my arm, heading toward the door. I'll see you later. There's science to be done. Still alive. As I closed the door behind me, I could hear her teasing me. Nerd! I paused, turning to open the door behind me and throw a rebuttal at her. Says the girl who spends all night arguing with people on forums. Hey, I can't rest well if I know people are being stupid on the internet and I didn't tell them so. I grinned at her. Yeah, see you later. She blew a kiss at me from the couch as I closed the door and locked it behind me. I doubted I'd ever get tired of this kind of life. After a long day of science, chemicals, and still being treated like a greenhorn in my workplace, I returned home. For a second I hesitated to open the door. My apartment, my safe haven, was filled with women. And they were all talking. What a horrifying concept. As I was considering potentially hitting a bar or something and turning away from the apartment, the door swung open. Sweetheart! Oh boy, I knew that tone. Hanako had been drinking. Hey, you, I said, pulling her head close to my chest. Looking over it, I saw at least 6 other people in the living room. Akira, Lily, Shizune, Rin for some reason, and 2 women I hadn't met before. Akira was the first to say, Come on in, Sal. Finally someone who can hold their alcohol. She beamed cheerfully, shaking a bottle at me. Shouldn't I not be participating in the bachelorette's party? I asked her with a smile as she walked in. Hanako still attached to me at the chest. She was like a cat and I was the catnip. She kept rubbing her face against me, humming happily. It's not a bachelorette party, though, silly. It's just a bunch of my friends having fun. It was around 7 or 8. They must have already had dinner. And was that bottle bourbon? Jeez, no wonder Hanako was halfway out the door. Honestly, I'd probably had a better liquor tolerance thanks in part to my friendship with Kenji, but I didn't think I ought to drink too much. I might have to pass on the drink, though. I shouldn't get preemptively wasted, you know. I honestly am afraid to drink with Kenji, or the people I invited to go with me to hopefully keep me in check. I chuckled as I walked in, finally prying Hanako off me with a kiss. I walked into my living room, the only real sitting place being my desk. I placed my lab coat on the coat rack and sat down, looking at all the women. I wondered why Rin was here, but knowing her, she probably changed her mind and took a train or something. While she was staring at clouds. Could she even drive? I tried imagining the armless painter driving with a chin or some absurd apparatus. That probably wasn't the case, but it was still an interesting thought. When I sat down, I realized that all the women were staring at me. I took in an apprehensive breath. She told you how I proposed, huh? A sudden wave of laughter washed over me as I let it soak in. Yeah, go ahead. Just as I was about to rebuke their laughter, the doorbell buzzer went off. Not just once, a bunch of intermittent repetitions. just a line I can see. This ought to be good. I walked to the door, opening it a little. It was Kenji. Barely from the last I saw him, his shoulders seemed a bit wider and his glasses seemed smaller. Much smaller. Less thick, too. Hey, buddy. Then he peered around me and saw the women in my apartment. A look of horror crossed his face. Holy shit, get out of there! Kenji shouted. He grabbed me and pulled me out of the door, then rolled what looked like a canister into the apartment's hallway. He nearly threw me aside from the door, holding what looked like a putty knife. He held it as if it were a pistol and he were an agent of some kind. the entire time hollering at the top of his lungs like he was Braveheart and charging into battle. "Why are you shouting? And what'd you just throw into my apartment, Kenshi? I wasn't captured or anything either. It's Hanako's anti-feminist spy group. I told you you're not going to be the only one infiltrating their regime," I said, hoping the canister wasn't anything damaging. I didn't want to lose my security deposit. He stopped shouting, narrowing his eyes in contemplation as he chose the next words. "It's a manly shout of courage. It'll cause enemies under level 10 to flee in fear. And it was a paint can. They think it's a concussive grenade or a smoke bomb, so they gave us time to escape." "Wait, you said they were shoulders?" "Oh." He lowered the putty knife. "Sorry then, can't be too careful. The other day some chick at my bar." "Wait, your bar? You own a bar?" He nodded proudly. "The manliest skid mark on this side of the city." I nodded slowly. "Is that what you did with your business degree? Open up a rundown bar?" Kenji nodded enthusiastically. "Hell yeah! Now go get your coat, sugar tits. We're getting hammered. Bar's only open to us tonight. And the strippers, man. And do I have some strippers?" I grabbed my coat from inside, gave Hanako a kiss, and reassured I wasn't going to do anything I'd regret in the morning. On the way out, I picked up the paint can. I tossed it to Kenji the minute I opened the door. Surprisingly, he caught it. "Your eyes are better. Painting your bar earlier?" He nodded, probably to both questions. "Yeah, that laser eye surgery shit works wonders, man. I can see a little better now, but normal sight doesn't help you see through the veil of feminism, man." "Tell me about it." When we arrived at the bar, I had to admit it didn't look bad at all. He was clearly going for a western-looking city bar, which didn't surprise me too much. He always used to rag on how our country's liquor wasn't nearly strong enough. Looking around, I saw a handful of people I'd invited were already there. One of my good friends from university, Yuji, and Misha were both sitting at the bar. My co-worker, an American named Jack, was also sitting at the bar. Wait, what was Mickey doing behind the bar? "Mickey?" I asked, confused. She raised her stump as if in greeting. "Yo, so you're getting married, huh? Not bad. Didn't think anyone would stick to you for that long. It's Hanako, right?" I nodded, and then she looked toward Kenji, waiting for an answer. I thought this was a bachelor party. Was she a lesbian too now? "She's, one of my bartender or waitress bitches, and we're dating." "Wait, is she the girl you've been dating?" Kenji shook his head. "Fuck no. The last girl couldn't handle my visionary ways, and how hard I wrecked her in bed." He cleared his throat after receiving a questioning stare from our tan friend. "Yeah, Nikki showed up at my bar looking for some eats and a job, so I decided to give her a shot." He adjusted his glasses as he removed his dark coat and threw it at one of the many scuffed and empty tables. "Never thought someone with only one hand could make drinks as fast as she does. It's scary, man. I can only attribute it to how much of a bro she is." I looked at Mickey. She shrugged with a smile, not saying anything. "Don't you have to be a guy to be a bro?" I wasn't sure, but Kenji's skull told me otherwise. "What are you, some kind of ignorant sexist? Anyone can be a bro. Any bro knows that. Have you reviewed your bro license, Sal?" He started peering angrily at me. "Well, I believe that's what I'm here for, aren't I?" Kenji slowly backed away from me and toward the bar. "Good answer, Nakai." I sat at the bar with the other three. "Wah! Hee-chan, how you been?" Yes! Misha returns! A heavy clap on my back. "I'm alive, still kicking. How about you? How's the signing business going?" Another ecstatic burst of laughter from Misha. Her hair was getting longer again, and the sides of her hair was already forming small drills. Guess she missed them. Jack, my co-worker... Wait, where'd that go? Okay. Jack, my co-worker, looked at Kenji and Mickey. "So, what, food do you have?" His Japanese was a work in progress, but he was a pretty cool guy. Good sport and funny. Incredibly tall and quiet at first, which I think daunted most of the people in my workplace. That paired with his overwhelming serious expression and appearance made him look out of place. "Pizza, chicken wings, and liquor," Mickey answered quickly. Jack's eyebrow raised slowly. "Liquor's food?" he asked slowly, tentatively. Kenji nodded. "Damn right, it's one of the most important food groups. Whiskey, pizza, chicken wings, peanuts, and steak." Jack seemed confused at first, but just wrote it off. "So, you have strange friends," he told me in English. I had to learn it at the university due to how much medicine is written in English. "I know. You get used to them," I responded in the same language, confusing the others. Hey! No secret English shit," Kenji declared. "How's the running been, Hisao?" Yuji interjected. I doubt he could handle Kenji's nonsense either. Misha just kept laughing at all of it. "Been good, had a few flutters, but I've been able to keep it under control. No real bad accidents." Jack looked at me confused. "What do you mean?" I smiled at him, pointing at my chest. "Earthmia. Nearly died in high school, been dragging myself through the mud ever since." Jack looked intensely introspective for a moment, then reached into the lab coat he was still wearing. Probably arrived straight from work. "For you, then." He retrieved a flask from his coat and passed it toward me. "You bring this with you to work?" He grinned a little. "Of course not." A wink. I shook my head as I accepted the drink. taking a deep swig of it. After lowering it from my lips, my vision completely blurred for a second. I felt a burn unlike anything I'd ever had. Things started moving around me. I started coughing furiously. What is this? Jack beamed. Moonshine, 190 proof. Made it myself. Placed a palm to my forehead. Holy fuck, my head's already hurting. I felt the thing snatched out of my hand, and I looked over to see Kenji looking at it as if for the Holy Grail.
Can I?
He asked. Jack nodded. Go for it, he said in English. Almost everyone passed it around, and I heard the sound of a door opening, closed by the accompanying of footsteps. Huh? Must be the moonshine of having knocked off half my brain synapses out of order, because I was looking at Muto holding a glass of some golden liquid. He must have come out of the bathroom or something. Muto waved at me. His hair was grayer than I remembered, but he was still wearing some familiar brown coat and a black-collared shirt and tie. What you doing here? He gave a tired smirk. Smiles didn't look right on him. Experimenting. Wait, which one's saying that? Oh. What you doing here? He gave a tired smirk. Smiles still don't look right on him. Experimenting. You think I'd let one of my favorite students have a bachelor party without me? He sipped his drink and smirked at me. Misha told me and said I should come along. Just call me Akio. You know me long enough now. I laughed. Guess I have. I just figured that this wouldn't be your kind of thing. Muto shrugged at me. Nonsense. A scientist must try all things to formulate a proper observation. I nodded. Same old Muto. So, what have you been up to? Hear about my job? Time traveling, mostly, and yes, I'm pretty damn proud of you. You used to be a researcher, but then... He looked at the glass of scotch. Mr. Seto, I will require another glass of this. Kenji laughed. Same as the last? Double shot of the rocks? Muto looked at the glass. I believe I've reached that drink enough. How about some tequila? Salt the rim if you would. Motherfucking Muto. Kenji salutes him and complies with the order while Mickey starts cooking up some food in the grill oven that's inset into the wall with vents above it. So you said strippers. Kenji nods. Yep. Even though I've already have a pretty good foundation of alcohol in me, everyone else is getting the same way. I can't approve it. Oh wait, nobody's saying that. Even though I have a pretty good foundation of alcohol in me and everyone else is getting the same way, I can't approve of strippers. I've only ever had eyes for Hanako. I know she's drinking herself to sleep tonight, so she doesn't think about what may or may not be going on right now. I don't really approve of strippers, you know. Kenji shakes a beer at me. I don't know how I'd pronounce that one. Was that noise even necessary? Think about it from Hana's perspective. She's always had such a hard time getting used to being around people, and I'm part of why she can now. She's probably going through hell right now, considering the fact that I might have some half-naked woman on my lap stealing me away. The silence from everyone made me realize that it might have been a little careless to have strippers.
Okay, fucking party pooper, they're not strippers, alright? I lied about that. Wanted to get y'all excited. They're a bunch of dancers. They're classy and stuff. I sometimes have them here in English for burning at the bar. Bring their own poles or semi-closed. No lap dances, no touching. Anyone who does gets thrown out. People love it. Figure you get a kick out of it too. I sighed out of relief. One less thing to worry about. In that case, I don't have to worry about getting smashed tonight. And with that, Mickey set out a line of shot glasses, deftly pouring into each of them without spilling a single drop. Muto, Misha, Jack, Yuji, myself, Kenji, and Mickey. We each got our shots, and Kenji flicked on the television, and the smell of cooked food hit my nostrils. This was night. Old and new friends, drinks, food, and television, and later, adult entertainment that Hanako wouldn't approve of. Kenji lifted a shot of clear liquid that smelled and probably tasted strong enough to be nail polish. To Hassan Takai's last day of freedom. To Hasao! And we all knocked back the shot. I heard laughter and smoked pizza coming out of the oven moments later. The dancers arrived bringing poles with them and everything, portable ones that could be set up. These chicks, man, not only are they not feminist, but they're damn hypnotizing. I mean, look at that shit. She's walking down a flight of stairs upside down on a pole.
Motherfucking Kenji! His amount of staring while chewing on a spicy chicken wing earned him a hard punch from Mickey, which he ignored. How does that even work, man? I shrugged, tipping back some kind of American beer. Coors? Corona? I couldn't really read it anymore. I don't know, Kenji, but it is pretty damn impressive. Oh, maybe he said that.
Look, that one's spitting and shit. That's pretty hot, huh?
I know, but then I laughed a lot louder than I probably should have when Mickey slams a harder punch into his arm. This time he can't ignore it because he spills his beer.
Hey, come on, don't be like that. You're not the only hot bitch on one of my pole sprinkle cheeks.
This time a headlock.
Sprinkle cheeks, wah!
Misha's already outdrank most of us and is swaying quite a bit more than she should be.
She's got freckles on her ass,
Kenji informed us while Mickey continued crushing his windpipe. Ignore him, she said, a grin of pure anger and the slightest bit of red in her expression. Misha wound up resting her head on my shoulder.
Ah, my head's starting to hurt, He-chan.
I pat her on the back, sipping my beer. Beer than liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before beer, have no fear. Words of wisdom from my father, ones that I live by when it came to drinking. You'll be all right. Mickey, when you're done choking Kenji to death, can you get Misha a bottle of water? She nodded, smiling. I'll whip her up her sandwich, too. Something to soak up the booze. As she walked away, I looked over to Yuji, Muto, and Jack, all laughing and joking around. Jack and Muto hit it off fast, being fellow scientists, and Yuji was just an easy person to get along with. When I looked over, I realized Misha was crying a little under my shoulder. Whoa, what's the matter? I asked in a harsh tone so that people wouldn't realize something was wrong.
The same problem I've been having for years, He-chan.
A hiccup goes when she goes to say her pet name for me. Shizune, I imagine.
I still love her and I can't get over it, even though I've tried so hard.
I frowned. I felt myself sobering up quickly now that I had an old friend crying softly on my shoulder.
Sometimes people just can't stop loving someone else. And you either gotta learn to love someone else too, or just be accepting of the fact that you can't love anyone else. I just don't know what to do. I tried everything I can to get over it, or make her love me.
I sat a little while she clung to my arm. I couldn't seem to find any interest in the dancers, although they were winking at me, knowing I was the one getting married tomorrow.
What would you do if you were in my position? If it was Hanako that couldn't love you?
I laughed a little at the concept. I'd probably stick by her, doing whatever I could if she wanted that help. It hurt, but I'd rather her be happy if it had nothing to do with me. Misha wiped her eyes a little, taking my beer from me and drinking it.
I think I'm going to try taking one of these dancers home.
I laughed, tossing a half-assed thumbs up at her. More power to you. Kenji crawled back into the bar, seemingly having regained consciousness.
Did one of the feminist hookers get me? Fucking hell, I knew I should have killed her and dumped her body in the reservoir.
He mumbled, causing me to look at him curiously. I doubt he was talking about Mickey, which made me afraid for what he'd been up to the last year or so. I looked at my watch and then to the piece in my right hand. It was like 11 p.m. How much had I drank? Quite a bit, I think. Most everyone was winding down, and the dancers were starting to leave, one of which seemed pretty engaged with a conversation with Misha. It has to be those drills. No one can resist the drills. I bet that dancer wants Misha to drill her. Ha! Get it? Drill. Why am I even making these jokes in my head? I shake off the booze fugue a little and see that Muto is walking toward me. So you're taking the big leap, huh? Getting married? Yes, that tired, weary-looking expression is still plastered to his face. This time the look of alcohol stupor is there, too. He's got a bit of thicker layer of stubble on his face than usual. Marriage is tough for Sal, he states. I wonder if this is supposed to be some kind of fatherly advice from a smart man who saw some kind of potential in me. Then again, he had been right before about where my potential lay and helped me choose a good university. I sipped my beer. I should probably listen to whatever he had to say. I see a lot of myself in you, except you're succeeding. Oh, boy. He reached into his coat's breast pocket, fishing out a little orange bottle full of white pills. I have cardiomyopathy. My heart's deteriorating all the time. I suffer from constant chest pain and the potential of sudden cardiac arrest. When things start getting bad, if I don't take a couple of these, I could die in a couple of minutes. Heart steroids, constant experimental treatments, running my ass off with a break at dawn because I can't sleep at night for fear of not waking up. This is why I look so damn beat all the time, Marcel. I am damn beat. I'm fighting an uphill battle. We all are. My wife left me because she couldn't handle the concept of me dropping dead suddenly. Hell, I still can't. Don't let your condition beat you, Marcel. Hear me? He asks. For the first time since I've known Muto, he looks like he's about to cry. You keep fighting it. You stay strong. Don't let it best you or lose a lot. And keep in touch, will you? It may sound weird, but I look at you like one of my kids. I look at a lot of my former students like children to make up for the ones my wife took from me. The ones who don't call or visit anymore. You're my favorite kid, though. You remind me there's still hope, and that's worth struggling for. He pulls me into an unexpected hug. I returned feeling for him. We were alike, weren't we? How about this, Akio? When Hanako and I have a kid, you can be the godfather. But you better stay alive until then, right? All right? Muto laughs loudly, a big grin on his face that looks wildly uncharacteristic on the tired face of his. He breaks away from the hug, holding me by the shoulder, squeezing me a little. Hell, I can do that. Us scientists need to stick together, you know? I pat him on the shoulder and turn away from him, looking to Yuji and Jack, who are still sitting at the bar, sipping their own respective drinks still. Pretty cool bachelor party. A little low-key, but you always been a reserved guy. You got some good friends, though. Odd, but good. All from Yamaku, right? I nod. He and I used to talk a lot about Yamaku. He's a pretty damn open-minded guy. I always wanted to know what life was like on the other side of the fence. What it was like coping with something that held you back in life. Well, I gotta get home. Fuck, which way's the train? He says, clutching his head a little while asking Kenji.
About 5 blocks that away. Watch out for them fucking feminists, dude. They're worse than slashers and muggers. What? Once I had to clothesline some woman who approached me. She was definitely going to shank me, although she tried convincing the police she was just asking for the directions. Fucking feminist. Police believe me, or they wouldn't let me go.
Mickey laughs. Or it could be because you have a history of paranoid delusions and forget to take your medicine every now and then. Kenji slammed his hands onto the bar.
Delusions! Woman, this is delusion. It's war. Don't tell me I'm not right, Mickey.
She rolls her eyes. Oh, shut up before I ram my stump into your ass. Kenji pauses.
But I like it when you do that.
Oh, for the love of... She shrugs and walks away from Kenji, extending her hand toward me. Take it easy, Asao. I nod, gripping her hand. She then pulls me into a firm hug from over the bar. People from Yamaku don't last forever, so I'm glad you're still kicking. Don't be a stranger. Come to the bar every now and then. Free beer and food. I nodded. Definitely. Take care of Kenji. He needs someone who's mostly sane.
I am sane, damn it! I'm the last sane man in an insane world! He shouts from his resting place across the bar.
I laugh. Yeah, Kenji, we know. It's pretty woozy already. This was something I didn't think about. Getting home. We'd all been drinking. Well, except maybe Mickey. She had a few shots, but she looked like she was abstaining from the alcohol. Hey, who's bringing me back? Kenji drove me here and I didn't bring any train fare. Mickey laughed, grabbing a set of keys from the corkboard behind her on the wall. Hey, Four Eyes, I'm taking the groom home in the car. Kenji nodded.
Make sure to hit someone on the way. I need someone for the city to focus on instead of my parking violations.
Mickey nods, throwing a coat on. Everyone else files out of the bar. Most of them look like they took to the train here in the first place, except for Jack and Muto, who both took their cars. And actually, it looked like Misha was getting into the car of one of the dancers. She winked at me, the trademark grin on her face. The dancers came in their own vehicles and changed in the bathroom, and now were wearing regular clothes rather than their semi-revealing uniforms. I shook my head at her and smiled. At least she's doing something to keep her mind off Shizune. Huh? Get it? Doing? Jeez, I really need to sober up. Muto and Jack waved to me, both seeming fully able to drive. You guys call me in the morning, so I know you didn't die on the way back home, alright? They all nodded, and Mickey pointed to the green sedan that Kenji had pulled up to my apartment in. She unlocked the door and sat down, adjusting the rear view a little with her wrist and groaning when she realized she couldn't use her wrist for shifting as well. This is why I fucking hate driving, she said as she wrapped the inside of her elbow around the shifter and pulled it into reverse. With her other hand, she turned the wheel and spun it so she could do a 2-point turn. Using her arm around the shifter again, she pulls into drive and starts following the road. Kenji told me the address, so no worries about directions. I know most everywhere like the back of my hand. I laugh because that's funny. The back of her hand. Is it the hand she doesn't have anymore? In response to my laughter, she hits the brakes and I slam into the dash in front of me. Hey, careful! I'm still laughing though pointing my chest. Mickey suddenly understands and apologizes. My bad. Don't want to kill you before your wedding. I laugh and she drives me back to my apartment. The road's nearly empty. Not many people drive in this area, I've noticed. So, nervous? I shrug a little while slumping against the window. Maybe. I don't see anything to be nervous about other than all the people will be watching. Not nervous about the fact you'll be stuck with someone for the rest of your life until some kind of messy, painful end? It almost seemed like she was God damn it. Where was I? It almost seemed like she was making Hanako or myself out to be some kind of axe murderer. Or maybe there's some kind of horrible divorce in our future. Not at all. If I wasn't sure about whether either of us would be willing to successfully spend our lives together, I'd never have proposed. I love Hana. I closed my eyes. I was so tired. I couldn't wait to get home and crawl into bed with Hanako. Good. I used to try and stick up for her, keep people off her back. She has no idea, though. Heard a couple of people talking shit about her one day at school back in the day. I slapped them around because I cut it out. She's such a sweet kid, never done anything wrong to anyone. It isn't right to give someone like that a hard time because of some fucking burns. I smiled. Glad to see Lily and I weren't the only people who thought like that then. I appreciate it, and if I ever tell Hanako, I'm sure she'd appreciate it a ton too. We stopped at a red light, but didn't blow through it despite the fact there was no traffic at all. So have you thought about your future with her? Like, how long you have? Mickey sounded deathly serious, and my expression faded from goofy to blank. I've been thinking about this too. I've been trying to scrape as many years together as I could. I've become a guiding light, a source of true happiness for Hanako. If I died a year or 5 after we got married, it may just kill her. I have. A lot. From what my doctors think about my... thinking from my own research, I probably have about 15 years left. But I've been lobbying for research on experimental heart medicines to prolong my life. As selfish as it is, I don't want to die yet. I paused, glancing at the window at the side of the street. I might have to get a pacemaker or built-in defibrillator before I get too old for the surgeries, just to add on some more years. I doubt I can hold on as long as Hanako can, but I've got to try. I want to have a family. I want to live as long as possible. Mickey sighed as the light turned green, but we remained in place, her foot on the brakes. Life's tough, isn't it? People like Hanako, or me, or Kenji. We're going back to the 30-year reunion, and most of our friends are going to be dead. I don't want you to be on the list of people we're going to miss when we go back 1 year. I gave her a bitter smile. I'm trying my best, Mickey. I really am. I honestly was scared to propose to Hanako because of my condition, but I can't waste time. I don't have much. I need to work hard, take care of myself, make lots of money, and put a lot away. I want to have a house and family taken care of by the time I'm gone. Yet, I didn't think I'd be able to. I still wanted to try. Mickey could tell. You're a good fucking guy, Nakai. Hey, that rhymed. Know why you got shafted in life. People like you shouldn't die. I smirked. Hell, if I could live forever, so many things I'd do. I could help so many people. I guess that was my main motivation in life. I wasn't really living for myself. I was just charging forward with everyone else, filling in what used to be a shallow husk of a person. There was my fuel, there were my legs, there were my will. All these people I knew and cared about. Before I knew it, I was in front of my apartment. Oh, that was fast, I said as I was rubbing my eyes. Mickey pushed me playfully. Yeah, you old fart. The minute I stopped talking, he started dozing off. I never heard of someone napping as much as you do. Kenji tells me about it all the fucking time. Before he started up the bar, you two would hang out and you'd just zonk out on the couch for no reason. I chuckled as I pushed open the door. Hey, life's tiring. Gotta catch some sleep whenever you can, you know? Thanks for the ride. I'll definitely swing by on my own car sometimes in the future, Mickey. Keep Kenji in line. I think you can manage it more than anyone else could. He flexed his arm out with a wink. Damn right. Now go snuggle with your Hana bear. I nodded, slamming the car door shut. I walked toward the door of my apartment, and before I could shove my key in the keyhole, it swung open. Hanako was there, her eyes watering. What's the matter? I asked her as she drags me into the apartment and slams me against the wall with a hug. I didn't think you were coming back. She sobs and I laugh as I press her head against my chest. Oh, you. How much have you drank? She shrugged, not sure. Probably too much. She whispers between a slight sob. You didn't do anything bad? I shake my head. Absolutely not. You can ask Misha tomorrow. I promise I didn't. She frowns at me a bit, biting her lip and narrowing her eyes at me. You better not have. Being drunk, I tilt her head back and kiss her a bit more forcefully than she expects. Her eyes widen and she's a little taken back. Sal, people are still here. They're sleeping. I jet her lip out at her. Oh, the no preemptive honeymoon for us. Such a shame. She laughs, leaning me by the hand to her bedroom. She's such a sweetheart. She could barely walk, yet she stood up. She stood up this entire time so she could make sure we fell asleep together. So glad I met her. My father and Muto are helping me get my tux on. Man, kiddo, never thought I'd see this day, my father says, adjusting my tie while Muto helps me slip on my tux. Is it bad that I doubted it too? I smirked sardonically. I barely thought I'd live through high school, never mind long enough to get married. God, I'm fucking antsy, I said, adjusting my tuxedo, and broke now. All I can think about is all the people staring at me and how little money I have in the bank. My father laughed hard, slapping me on the back. Welcome to marriage, son. Great. Any pearls of wisdom for me, Akio? I asked, turning to Muto, who was inspecting my clothes and making sure nothing was out of place. Don't blink, maybe. You might miss it. Everything happens fast. Kenji basically kicks the door open the minute he's about to say something, though. God damn it, Hasao, your fucking bouncer confiscated my whiskey. I noticed as I started buttoning up my tux and making sure there was no lint or anything on it, and that my damn hair was staying the way I wanted it to. My mother battled it for so long that it took to get my tuxedo and whatnot on. I glanced into the tall mirror. I know. I told him to do that. I don't need you drunk and causing a fuss until the ceremony is over. I don't need my best man making a fool of himself in front of my family and friends, and most of our former classmates. He snarled at me for a minute. Fine, but that open bar better be free. It is. I'll make sure to let them know you can drink as much as you can before you pass out on the bar. This seemed to placate Kenji. Good, good. Alright, how much time left before you're ready? You should probably get out there soon. And, awkward question. Shoot.
I said as I brushed a small wrinkle out of my coat. Who's gonna walk Hanako down the aisle if her dad's dead? I frowned a little how bluntly it's put, but Muto clears his throat. I am. I offered and she accepted. Like I told Asao last night, I feel like my students in form are like my kids. I'd like to help each of them if possible. You're a bro, Muto. Glad to have you part of the anti-feminist resistance force. I roll my eyes and try to calm myself. My heart is beating hard, although steadily. My stomach's not only in knots, but it feels like the damn thing has shoved itself into my throat. Well, everyone's ready. Hanako's too, so just get your ass to the altar. Let's get the show on the road so I can get drunk already. Oh, that must have been Kenji that said that. My father arches an eyebrow at my best man. Bit of a nosy, isn't he? I shrug. He keeps himself within bounds, usually. He's surprisingly good at holding his booze. I take in a deep breath and let it go. All right. Time to do this. You got the rings, Kenji? He fishes the two out of his suit's pocket. 2 rings, one golden with silver inlay and the other silver with golden inlay. The 2 intertwined colors are supposed to reflect how we always be a part of one another. I looked at them and I felt a heat rising up in my chest. It was happening. Today was the day. It was just starting to hit me now. I was marrying Hanako. After all this time, after all the things we've been through, and after all the obstacles we've overcome together, today was the big day. The day we truly committed ourselves to one another for the rest of our lives. How fucking nerve-wracking. My hands were shaking, so I shook the shakes out of my hands as hard as I could. Kenji grinned at me. Relax, buddy. You two were pretty much already married, so now you're just making official on tax forms. Of course, way to look at it. I guess. Alright, let's do this. We all left my dressing room and started heading toward the main room of the church. The church was rather full. I gulped. I didn't realize Hanako had invited this many people. Or had the resources to invite this many people. It looked like most of my family, all of our old classmates, and even a handful of my old classmates from my old high school. Lily's family even showed up, flying in from Scotland. We had spent some time with them at their summer house one year, and they really took to us. The year I presumed to be Hanako's co-worker. The rest I presumed to be Hanako's co-worker from the firm. Everyone here was beaming. No worries, son. You got this far without messing up. You can do this, too. My dad informed me, patting me on the back as he took formation with Kenji beside me. Yuji and Jack... Well, yeah. My dad informed me, patting me on the back as he took formation with Kenji beside me. Yuji and Jack all suited up and looking sharp. Muto was waiting at the base of the aisle so that when Hanako exited the dressing room, he'd take her hand and deliver her to the altar and then take his place as one of my men of honor. The priest smiled at me as I took my position. He nodded to the organ player, who began playing those familiar tunes, the one all the kids used to hum, the one girls dreamed about, the song that meant promise and love. I adjusted my bow tie a little. I was feeling a bit hot. After a few seconds, Hanako appeared in the hall, Takara in front of her wearing a white dress and scattering pink and purple petals along the halls. My soon-to-be wife began walking to the tune of the organ. She interlocked her arm with Muto's, and the two began walking toward me. Christ, my throat just closed up? Oh, fuck, I can't breathe. That long white dress and that smile she was wearing completely stole my breath. Her hair was completely done up, curled gently at the bottom, and her flowers were violets, much like the color of her eyes and hair. The veil flowed behind her, along with the train, the 2 other girls she counseled in the past. She was looking right at me, and I could see nothing but warmth in her eyes and bliss on her lips. While we locked gazes, nothing else existed. Not Muto, not Takara, not anyone in the pews. Not the people to my right or left. It was just us. Only us. We were the only people in an entire universe, and it was our love that filled it and gave it form. I felt my nerves easing, and I couldn't help but let my expression loosen up and a smile fill my visage. She then mouthed some words at me, mouths that only we could hear in our world betwixt. I love you. My heart skipped so hard that I felt the world shook with it. Eventually she reached the aisle after a beautiful eternity shared between the 2 of us. The 3 girls, Takara included, took their places beside Lily, one of our other close friends from work, and Tomo. Tomo was looking rather embarrassed, being a maid of honor, wearing a violet tucked and holding a single flower. The other maids of honor were wearing violet gowns and holding similar bouquets. Hanako would insist that Tomo do this because she considered him a close friend after all the time she spent with him trying to help him. He adjusted his glasses nervously as the music finally stopped and recentered my focus on the woman in front of me. The priest smiles warmly at us both. Since it is your intention to enter into marriage, please join your right hands and declare your intent for all to witness and behold. I take Hanako's hand, our fingers woven over each other's. She feels warmer than usual, and I can sense the tenderness of her love for me and how she grasps my hand. The priest nods. Asao Nakai, do you take Hanako Ikazawa as your wife? Do you promise to be true to her in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love her and honor her all of her days of her life?
Honor her all the days of your life. Yeah. Okay. I squeeze her hand gently. I do. And do you, Hanako Yokozawa, take Hisao Nakai as your husband? Do you promise to be true to him in good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, to love and honor him all the days of your life? Although I expect her to be nervous, her resolve is clear and she shows no signs of hesitation. Forever, she says softly. You've clearly declared your intent to all who reside with here for today, and may all goodness strengthen your consent and fill you with blessing. He raises his hands toward us, looking out at all who are watching the ceremony. What has been joined today is something that cannot be broken by man, two hearts bound as one. I turn toward Kenji, who realizes this is his cue. From his breast pocket he fetches the rings that have been kept safely wrapped in a satin cloth. He hands it to the priest, who opens it in his hand and holds it between us. I can barely pay attention to his words. All I can see is Hanako and the tears that are beginning to form at the corner of her soft eyes. May these rings forever be a reminder of the strength and fidelity of your love. I take the ring that belongs to Hanako and place it over her gloved left hand. She takes mine and does likewise. The priest closes his eyes and smiles, folding his hands. You may now kiss. I place my hand on her cheek, this moment feeling more natural than anything I'd ever done in my life. The whole church is silent, waiting for the moment they've all been expecting. My scars don't make me look bad in this dress, do they, Sal? Her voice is barely a whisper, only something to be shared between us. I shake my head. Nothing in the world can make you look bad in this dress. She smiles, closing her eyes as a tear falls from both eyes and a large smile crosses her face. I'm so glad. And with that, I pull her into a kiss she had probably thought would never be anything more than a daydream she sometimes had. A roar of applause and cheering as we embraced. The day rushed by faster than I felt humanly possible after that. The dancing, the classic jazz and some ballads, the food, the pictures, the laughs and friends, the drinking and memories that were forged that day. I don't think for how fast that day felt, I could ever forget it. The day finally ended. Evening falling, and the small limousine I'd rented was out front of the venue we had rented for the wedding party after the reception. Cans were tied to it, and Happily Married was painted on the back window. Hanako nearly dragged me to the limousine and into it as I waved goodbye to my friends, all of them cheering and whistling after us. The minute we were in the limo and the door had closed, Hanako turned to me with an enormous smile on her face. I can't wait till we get home. Oh? Oh. And then she climbed on top of me, kissing my neck and trying to pull off my tux and dress shirt. Hana, let's not do this in the limousine. The driver might watch. Hanako pulls away for a second, although her hands are still wrapped around my collar. I almost don't care, she says as she kisses me again, pressing her body against mine in a questionable location. God damn it, how long until we're home? Oh wait, no, she's saying that. God damn it, how long until we're home? She asked. Her voice faint and her eyes narrowed. I've never seen her this forward. I wasn't complaining, it was a interesting change. About 15 minutes, ma'am, the limousine driver said through the little window separating the back and front of the limo. Hanako paused for a moment. Can you make it 10? The driver laughed shortly. Yes, ma'am. The limousine sped up a little, and Hanako giggled as she dragged me to the seat with her, and she continued peppering me with kisses that I returned gladly. It didn't seem like much time had passed, but the driver stopped and leaned backward, looking through the window. We're here. Congratulations on your marriage. All of us from the Variance limousines wish you many years of happiness, he said with the tip of his hat. I grinned at him. Hey, you look kind of familiar. Do I know you? I asked. You look kind of plain, but with a defined face I think I've seen somewhere. He turns away, only an eye viewing me from the rear view. Probably not. I'm just the guy who drives the limousine and makes sure couples like you get the fairy tale wedding stories that they deserve. Nothing more. His words seemed strange, but I shrugged them off. Well, thank you for providing ours. Maybe one day you'll get your own. Limousine driver laughed at this. Maybe one day. Now get going. You've got a night and the rest of your future to enjoy. With that, I push open the limousine's door and scoop my wife, who shrieks a laugh in surprise. Kicking the door shut, I carry Hanako to our apartment's door, which I managed to open with one hand while still cradling Hanako. My big, strong man. Hanako teases, kissing me and rubbing her nose against mine, her breath on my lips and her eyes delving into mine. I can't resist anything about this girl, not a single thing. I carry her to the bedroom, where several violet candles were already lit and setting an atmosphere for us. Hisao, you were romantic. How did you set this up? I grinned. My dad has a key to the apartment. I asked him to light these before we got here. She grinned as she leaned forward and began nibbling gently on my neck. My hands wandered to behind her, unzipping the dress that covered her. Like clockwork, our clothes came off piece by piece until they were scattered around the floor, and I was leaned over her, both of our bodies just inches from one another, the heat from each other's skin warming each other. I should probably get a condom, shouldn't I whispered as our lips met slightly, teasing each other with light kisses. Hanako shook her head. No, not today. One should be okay, especially seeing as it's our honeymoon. She wraps her arms around me and pulls me closer, her other hand trolling down my back and between my legs to guide my entrance. A single sharp gasp. How long has it been? An hour? God, I don't know. Hanako had been a monster, preventing me from finishing until she was utterly satisfied. Now we were both spent, and she was pressing herself against my chest, kissing it every now and then while I held her closely, both of us looking up to the rings in our hands. Ready to sleep? I ask. Hanako shakes her head, squeezing me tightly. Not yet. There was one more thing I wanted to do, she said with a guilty smile. Oh boy, what in the world was she planning? Hanako rolls over to the end table beside the bed, opening a drawer and retrieving something from it. 2 3DSs. We had both bought each other one last Christmas without even realizing they were both getting the same exact thing from one another. Hers was a glossy black and purple 3DS, mine was a black and green one. Can we play some Monster Hunter together before we fall asleep? I really need help on a certain mission. I look at her exasperately, but I can't contain the enormous smile on my face. This is why I loved her. I take my 3DS from her and open it up while she rests against my chest with a look of pure happiness as she opens hers too. Of course, sweetheart. Anything for you. Hanako finale. Nothing has to end. I can't help but feel blessed. Flipping through the age paper of our scrapbook, I can't keep count of the memories. The binding struggles to contain the life Sal and I have made together. So many days have passed, more than I can possibly count. I sit alone on the couch, soft light flowing through the open curtains in the living room. Particles of dust float by as I turn each page. Everything is chronological. I spend most mornings like this, sifting through memories, taking a walk through the past. Photos of us when we started dating seriously, vacations with Lily, moving in together, pictures of us when I was just a fledgling at the social worker's firm. Time rewinds as I play everything in my head. I can see myself walking down the aisles again, marrying the sound and our kiss. The party afterwards, all of our friends celebrating with us. My heart swells. This is why I can't help but feel blessed. My life was once focused on never remembering, on never thinking about the past. Now? My life was a series of yesterdays. There wasn't much left for me tomorrow, aside from watching everyone else's lives unfold. I flipped through the pages, smiling at memories of Sal. The day I told him I was pregnant, the pictures of my belly growing. Sal wouldn't go a day without taking a picture. It was so embarrassing. Then one day, I gave birth to our twins. The older of the two was our daughter Megumi, my little treasure. Then shortly after came the boy Hiro. I realized that Sal hadn't just given me the gift of love, but he'd also given me the gift of a new family. I'm old enough now that my children have had children. Some of their children are just starting families now. I gave a small sigh, flipping through the pages, watching my children grow up and create their own families, leap through their own hurdles and conflicts in life. There's pictures of our old friends in here, school reunions over the years, 10, 20, 30, 40. In each of the pictures, the attendance starts to lower bit by bit. Some of our closer friends pass away. It hurts to think about all the people I've lost. But at the same time, I've gained so much. Not just from Sal with his family, but from all the people I've helped in life. I find myself going to the market and people approach me, thanking for things that I've done long ago. I constantly meet people who are the children of children I once counseled, children who had become adults thanks to the clarity I managed to help them find in their lives. I have trouble finding people who don't know me in some way or another. It's nice, though. They're all kind to me. Sometimes the younger ones ask me what it's like to be old. I just smile and tell them the same thing as everyone else. Everything just seems a bit slower. Every minute feels like 2. And for someone who's had a great life like me, I can't ask for anything more. No one mentions my scars anymore either, even though they're still visible despite how they faded. The texture of my skin will never return to normal, but most of the coloring is evened out. I run a hand along my cheek, closing my eyes. I can still feel Sal's hand on, caressing it, reminding me that he loves me no matter who I've been or who I will be. After reaching the end of the packed scrapbook, I close it, eliciting a puff of smoke from within it as I place it on the coffee table in front of me and lean back into the couch. The house is large. Sal, being a doctor, eventually made enough money to buy us a house like this. When Sal had this house built, he planned for the future. Our children grew up here. Our children's children were raised here, and when their parents are busy with work, It's on the coast, overlooking the beach and ocean. It's beautiful. We have a housekeeper, and he's very good at staying out of sight. I sigh. Sometimes it's too quiet here. Hey, Hana, want some tea? I hear it from a distance, presumably the kitchen. I smile as I turn my head toward the source of the voice. I would love some, Sal. Mr. Nakai, please go rest. You don't have to make the tea. I can. You pay me to do trivial things like this. I giggle to myself. Here we go. A constant arguing between my husband and our housekeeper. I hired you to help, not treat me like an invalid. I'm not. I just think having to do this is below you. Give me a break. I'm not some kind of legend. I just made some medicine when I was a kid. Some? The government granted you a grant named a grant after you for heart research. You've progressed the field in your lifetime more than most people have in decades. Or, you've progressed the field more in your lifetime than most people have in decades. You're a testament to how much the field has grown. What'd they say you live to? 30 most? You're 85. They said 25. And nonsense, stop it. Get away from my tea kettle. Please listen to Hisao, Kazuo. I call out. It seems that Kazuo reluctantly gives up on my words. Hisao grumbles out to him. Why don't you listen to me, huh? I'm the one who pays you. But she's not a grumpy old coot. I then hear Kazuo dash from the kitchen. Much to his surprise when he turns around, Hisao's chasing after him. Judging by the shock on his face, he wasn't anticipating such a response. Horrified, he bolts. On the other hand, Hisao stops when he reaches the living room and faces me with a grin. Calling me an old coot. I can still run. Nothing's stopping me. He tells me, leaning over to give me a kiss. Thankfully, he hasn't lost his hair. It's just turned a great white. I ruffle the mess as he leans forward and places a second kiss on my forehead. Is our family arriving later today? I nod. Every year, everyone spends a week here with us. They should be. I've been reading up on some new recipes. I'm looking forward to trying them out. I put on a small smile as I look to Hisao. Also, the tea? I ask. Hisao laughs, snapping. Right, almost forgot. French vanilla, like usual? I nod, an intangible sadness growing in my chest. Yes, and make a third cup, please. Hisao's silent for a second, his typical smile folding into the crease of a frown he sometimes wears. Of course. I sit in the living room on the couch, looking at the paintings adorning the walls. Tezuka classics, they're called now. Hisao was one of the first people to buy her paintings. Whenever he could, he would try to help her out financially with her dreams. And in part thanks to him, she achieved those dreams. I glance over my shoulder behind me. The only painting she ever did in the style of realism hangs proudly over a smaller table adorned with countless photos of her old friends. It's the painting she promised us as a wedding gift. She did it that night and gave it to us the following day. A picture of us at the altar on the wedding day, kissing. I was just gonna paint whatever came to mind. When I saw you two kiss, it felt like something put a fire in my chest. I felt like it was stuck in there, so I painted until I got it all out. Some time goes by, and I can hear the whistling of a teapot. Shortly after, Hisao exits the kitchen with a small tray carrying a familiar porcelain tea set. Quietly, he sets out the three the tray carries, two where I sit and one from across from us. Sitting to my left, he takes the teacup and raises it to his lips. Like old times, huh? I smile, bittersweet happiness filling me. Just like them. I miss her a lot. Hisao stares at his cup, a look of preponderance on his face. I do too. Guess that's what happens when you get old. You start living in memories, just so you can make it to tomorrow. It's sad, but it's true. So much of what felt like an irrevocable part of our lives is not just a memory. Memories we're holding on to direly. If I didn't have Hisao or my family, our current day-to-day life would be nearly impossible to cope with. I reach over and squeeze Hisao's hand. He knows instinctively how I'm feeling and raises my hand to his lips, kissing it. Don't worry, I'm still here. Thank you for holding on to your promise. I don't let go of his hand, but instead drink my tea. Hisao and I always drink a cup around lunch, like we used to with Lily at Yamako. The tea set we were using was actually a gift from Lily during one of our wedding anniversaries. My, Hisao. Hanako tells me all about the coffee you drink. Tea is better for you, you know. So I'm giving you our old tea set and some nice loose tea leaves as a gift. You must keep your health in mind, after all. Hisao joked that it was a silly gift to give, but from that day forward, he switched his usual coffee for tea. My cell phone starts to ring and I glance over to it. It reads Megumi. I finish my tea, so Hisao picks it up and takes it to the kitchen while I answer the phone. I place the phone to my ear. Hey there, Mom. Hello, sweetie. What time are you getting here? Probably around 5 or 6 in the afternoon. Anyone not coming? No, everyone's arriving. I'm glad. So, how's everything been? Megumi makes a point to do what I used to do when I was younger. She plays Mother Goose for the family, keeping a watchful eye on everyone to ensure that everything is going smoothly for the family. And she calls often to keep me in the loop. Hiro often calls and chats, but he doesn't keep as much of an eye on things as Megumi does. His job doesn't really allow him to. She tells me how my grandchildren are doing. Megumi and Hiro are doing well for themselves. They're both in the late 50s now. She has three children, where Hiro only has one. Megumi has 2 girls and 1 boy, and Hiro only has a son. Most of the children are in their mid or later 20s, just getting their life settled. A couple of them are married, and one already has a child. It feels strange sometimes to think that I'm a great-grandmother. How's Ayana's daughter doing? They're good. Izumi's handling the divorce well, which is surprising for a little 6-year-old. I told Ayana that man she married was no good, but that girl never listens to her mother. I remember you being like that once. Don't remind me. She gives a soft laugh. I wound up being a lot like you, though. I'm glad I did. Not many adults can say that about their parents. I'm happy to hear you say that, hon. Will you be cooking with me for dinner tonight? I glanced toward his house cup of tea. He didn't drink much, it looks. Yep, I will. Ayano and I will be helping. It's funny, Minori still can't cook to save her life. We both share a chuckle. Poor girl's never had a knack for cooking, even though she lives on her own. She's always complaining about how she wished she could cook better so she didn't have to live off takeout. Nothing else has changed with any of your little ones or heroes? They're not so little anymore, but not really, no. I smile a little. My grandchildren have grown up, but it still feels like just a few years ago. There were the little things who would always visit. My son's wife is still expecting. Ayano's coping well, and Midori's getting by. Hiro and his wife are doing well, and his son's going into law school. Seems Akira rubbed off on him while she was still around and visited the family constantly. I smile. That's good to hear. Glad things account for everyone. So, around 5 or 6, you said, I asked. Yeah, it seems that way. That's what I told everyone to meet up here for. You sure your house has enough room for all of us? There's going to be 10 of us, although at least 4 of us are going to use one room. Of course. The second floor was built to have plenty of guest rooms. Remember, Asel built this house so we could always have room, so we could always have some family or foster kids here. He knew how important it was for me to provide for everyone who needed it. A soft sigh. I remember, Mom. Well, I look forward to seeing you, and everyone else seems excited too. Glad to hear it, darling. I'll see you later. Sorry. What time is everyone showing up again? I giggle softly. Around 6, Mom. My daughter's understanding. She knows it's hard getting old sometimes. See you then. We both hang up, and I hang my phone on the table. Place my phone on the table. I can't speak. What should I do in the meantime? It's only noon, and I could possibly watch something on television, or I could always go on the internet. Not internet anymore. It's called the Ethernet now. It's pretty different, but I kept up with it all over years. It's not the same as the old term from when I was younger, either. They use the term Ethernet now to refer to the fact that the entirety of the internet is hosted on some cloud processing server and is wirelessly distributed by satellites. It's like ether or mist, everywhere and impossible to contain. After the government applied all sorts of arbitrary laws on the internet moved to a privately owned series of satellites, all running in tandem. The company had refused to allow the internet to be regulated. With advances in technology and how inexpensive manufacturing has become, it isn't a long shot to connect to the Ethernet. I don't use it very often because I have a hard time reading the fonts, and I don't care to wear my glasses all the time. As I realize my mind has been wandering, Asao approaches me, a chessboard in hand. I figure you want to brush up before the kids get here. We both know that Haru has declared it a life goal of his to defeat you to game of chess. I stifle a laugh. Hiro's son is far too young to think he'll ever be able to beat me. One day he would, though, but until then, I had fun teasing him about it. Well then, let's see if I can beat you. Remember back in the day when I used to be able to? He opens up the chessboard, setting up the pieces for me. I smile, nodding. And then I started reading up on theory. You did good keeping up with me, though. You started reading up whenever you could between work. Yeah, but then you started going to tournaments in your spare time. Remember that time you almost took Grandmaster? I feel a blush creeping into my cheeks. I did not. I just placed in the top 8, was all. I moved my pawn to c5, and Asao moves it without hesitation and chuckles a little bit of my embarrassment. He's responded with a Sicilian defense. Asao's always been a cautious type of person. I doubt he'd be here if he wasn't careful and knew exactly where to stop pushing himself. The Sicilian defense is good. but at least this is striving for equality and simultaneously the advantage. But because I've started first, it leaves him susceptible to quick counters that can tip the game in my favor and break the defense. The game goes exactly along as I planned. I catch him off guard with a bishop and leave a gaping opening his defense. That's unfortunate. But he doesn't look thrown like he normally does. A few turns later, he's flanking me with a rook and a knight, taking one of my own. Well, that's a little unexpected, I said, my smile folding a little. Although he's equalized the playing field, he hasn't won yet. The match goes on for a half an hour until it becomes a game of cat and mouse with my rook chasing down his king. Eventually, I force him into a corner while he tries to take the advantage with what few pawns he has left. A majority of his other pieces claim to my conquest. Checkmate, I proclaim as I pin his king. He sighs. As usual. Well, I'm thirsty. I think I'm going to pour myself another cup of tea. But you didn't finish the cup you already have, Sal. I motioned toward the cup to my left. He laughs abashedly. You're right. It's probably cold by now. I couldn't remember where the chessboard was and didn't want to bother you while you're on the phone during a phone call. Megumi? I nod as we reset the pieces for another game. I pass him his teacup and he heads to the kitchen, presumably to heat it up or to refill it. I smile a little at him. His memory's pretty shaky nowadays. It's kinda cute. While I finish setting up the pieces and moving the pawn directly in front of my queen two spaces forward, Kazuo re-enters the room. I figure a queen's gambit would make for a very interesting game this time. Playing chess, Mrs. Nakai? I nod at him. Yes, I am, and you don't need to call me Mrs. Nakai. I always tell you to call me by my first name. Kazuo looks away for a second. I don't feel that's respectful, though. I glance toward the kitchen. Don't worry about it. You've been tending to our house long enough. You're more than welcome to use my given name. I glance toward him and he's frowning a little. Is something the matter, Kazuo? He shakes his head. Nothing's wrong. Is there anything in particular you'd like me to do today? I've done most of the general chores already. I pause for a moment. Well, my family should be arriving within the evening, so would you mind preparing the guest rooms? He nods. How many will I be preparing? Well, Megumi and her husband Satoshi will be taking up a room of their own. Their son and his wife will need a room of their own, especially considering that she's pregnant. If you could, please make sure her room is made very comfortable for her. He nods with a smile. Of course, Mrs. Nakai. I frown at him for calling me Mrs. Nakai again, but he sighs. I just can't do it, miss, even if you request it of me. I shrug and smile. I guess nothing can be done about it. He feels like the part of the family as well. I just wish he'd called me Hanako. Ayano and her child Hatsumi will share a room. Hiro and his wife Sayuri will share a room, and their son Haru will have his own. Who am I forgetting? I wonder, tapping a finger on my chin. I believe the only person you're forgetting is Minori. Ah, you're right. That's about 6 rooms, then. I'll make sure the sheets are fresh and nothing's dusty. I smile at our housekeeper. Thank you, Kazuo. He nods and leaves the room to attend to what I've asked him. Just as he's leaving, Sal returns and sits back on the couch. Oh, this looks interesting, he says, sipping his tea. An hour or so passes, and Sal and I decide to stop playing chess. We both wind up sitting close to one another on the couch, my hand on his shoulder while he flicks on the television with a remote. I wrap my arm around his, lacing my aged fingers between his. I try and watch the movie, but I wind up dozing off. I can hear Sal teasing me. I remember when you used to get mad at me for always falling asleep during movies. Shut up. I'm old, or did you forget? He places a kiss on my forehead. I forget all the time, love. Never lost that charm of yours, did you, Sal? I slip into the quiet easiness of sleep, but I can feel Sal's hand still holding mine. A doorbell shakes me from my sleep. I've got a blanket draped over me, and Sal's nowhere to be found. I guess he got tired of the movie. He's so antsy. Sal's never been able to deal with not doing something all the time. I guess that's what happens when a workaholic retires. I get up and start walking toward the front door from the couch in the living room, the blanket draped over my shoulders. It's a little chilly in the house. I check my watch as I make my way to the door. It's 5:30 in the afternoon. The light coming through the windows is a little dimmer to match the setting sun. Kazuo was opening the door when I get to it, and I smile at the people standing there. It's Megumi and Satoshi. Megumi's hair is the same shade as Sal's, but slightly lighter. She has my eyes, though. Hair pulled into a French braid and slung over her shoulder. She gives a wide smile to me that exhibits the kind of energy that betrays the age in her features. Hey there, Mom. Like the fashion statement, she says, pointing to my blanket. Really? I think it's pretty chic, I say, twirling it a bit. It's for a mantle. Satoshi laughs, moving toward me and hugging me. He's a plain-looking man, but he's got good features and hard to match. How you hanging in there, Mom? I peck him on the cheek. I'm doing better than you, I bet. Megumi approaches, and I kiss her similarly, hugging her with this equal amount of gusto that she shows me. I wouldn't doubt that. Work's got me pretty slammed lately. 10 more years and I'm done with that company, Satoshi says, sighing in relief. Your fault you get set up for a salary man, being a salary man. He shrugs at Megumi, who shoves him playfully. Oh wait, Megumi said that. God damn it. Once I get to see again, we'll continue reading. They have a few bags with them, which Kazuo takes. You'll be in the same room you're always in, Mr. and Mrs. Hara. I just read that wrong. You'll be in the same room you're always in, Mr. and Mrs. Hara. They nod at Kazuo, although Megumi tosses me a glare when he's out of earshot. You think after 10-something years working with the family, he'd start calling us by our names? I shrug. I think someone brainwashed that boy. Thinking back, I can understand his formality. I helped his family a lot once upon a time, but I don't think it was quite enough. Too many hardships befell them anyways, and led Kazuo into our lives. Well, Kazuo was Tomo's grandson. Tomo couldn't handle his life even with my help, and his wife passed away of a broken heart some decades later. And well, their daughter lived a good life until she died of cancer when Kazuo was just a little boy. Kazuo's father, struggling to face his losses, abandoned his son. That crying boy was an image I couldn't forget. He was a steadfast child, though. He refused to let things get the best of him. I see a lot of his Tomo in him, although he has a much greater strength to overcome hardships than his grandfather. Kazuo knows how much both Sao and I tried to help his family, and I think that's why he regards us so highly. Well, make yourself at home, Satoshi. You know your way around the house. Feel free to watch a movie, or read something in our study. A strange look from Megumi. I ignored it, though. I get those odd looks a lot lately. We should start preparing some food, Megumi. I didn't start prepping because I fell asleep during a movie, I admit. My daughter chuckles a little at me, nodding and walking with me toward the kitchen. Thankfully, Kazuo started to set out things he knew I was going to cook for the evening. We all gathered around a large table laden with food. Half of my family nearly had to tie me to my chair so I wouldn't serve and set the plates, something I just didn't feel right not doing. Instead, Megumi, Minori, and Hiro set aside all the plates while Kazuo served everyone who didn't serve themselves. Seth sat beside me, smiling like a fool. He loved days like this, 12 of us, just in our immediate family. He was proud he'd come this far and done this much. I was too. So how's law school, Haru? I looked towards Hiro's son. He looked a little tired and was eating pretty slowly, so I figured I'd try to wake him up a little. He scratched his head. He took a lot after his mother, a dark-haired woman with bright blue eyes. Tiring. I barely sleep with all the studying I have to do. Hiro pats him on the back while he and his wife regard him warmly. But he's top of his class right now. At this rate, the Satoshi family company would be crazy not to take when he graduates. The Satoshi company's been doing well, taken over by Lily and Akira's children. They've been doing a good job making executive decisions and making sure the company flourishes. There's still always a need of lawyers to get sued for all sorts of silly things. I glanced over to Ayano and Izumi. My look skipped Ayano and went right to Izumi. She has my violet hair and my dark eyes. Izumi doesn't seem keen on eating, although her mother's trying to be as cheerful and coaxing be as cheerful as possible in coaxing her to eat. Izumi is upset, that much I can tell. I guess the divorce is taking more of a toll on her than Megumi admitted. Izumi crawls into Ayano's lap, burying her face into her mother's chest. Ayano sighs, a look of sadness creeping into her face as well. I meet eyes with her, but she smiles and mouths the words, "It's okay," to me. I give her a disparaging look. I know better than that. I've been around long enough. Still, now's not the time. Minori's busy stuffing her face, unable to stop eating for a moment. Such a tomboy. Never really had manners, always wore some sort of energy. I never knew where she got it from. Maybe Satoshi was like that when he was young. Everyone's chatting and enjoying themselves, his Sao included. I folded my hands after eating half a portion of my food. Enjoying the sight, it warmed my heart. Everyone's together and happy. Minori's arguing with her brother now, who's trying to explain why she has such a hard time finding and keeping a job thanks to how she acts all the time. His wife Suzumi laughs and then tries to placate the two, getting in the middle of the conversation and deflecting the topic tactfully. I'm a little impressed by her. She hasn't visited this house very often, but she's got a good head on her shoulders. As everyone finishes, Kazuo takes the plates away and everyone looks to me, considering I'm sitting at the top of the table. Coming with? Wait, coming with? I brought some movies for us to watch. Anna says, showing me a handful of thin discs with movies on them. I will in a moment. I like being the last to leave the table. I want everyone to finish eating before I get up. Once everyone had left the room, I looked over to Asao. He had barely touched his food. You okay? I asked, concerned in my tone. He nodded. I made an early dinner when you were asleep. Couldn't wait. Sorry. I'll have Kazuo wrap this up and I'll eat it another time, though. I glanced at him suspiciously. You're not lying to me about this, are you? He grins at me, leaning over and kissing me on the cheek. I wouldn't dream of it. I stared at him for a second, running my hand along the creases in his skin, up to his white hair. Past the age, all I could see was the young boy I'd fallen in love with. Grandma, are you coming? Wait, who's saying this? Oh. Grandma, are you coming? After the movie, I want to play a game of chess with you. Haru recalls that as he enters the dining room. I glanced toward the youth, asked Asao. Of course, sorry. I stand up. Asao's handed mine to go watch some movies and spend some time with my family. I yawn, feeling aware of age on me. A game of chess might have to wait until tomorrow, Haru. I awake to my bed with Asao and myself in it, wrapped up in blankets. I'm facing toward him, as I always do. When had I gotten into bed? I sigh. Asao, Kazuo, or one of my sons must have carried me to my room. I turn my focus over to Asao. There's something about his warm breath on mine and the feeling of his nose just glancing the tip of my own that I've come to love. If possible, I'd always try to find a way to fall asleep before him, but last night I'd been feeling exceptionally tired. Still, I let him sleep in. He enjoys his sleep a lot more now that he actually has time to sleep. I exit my bedroom, smelling the scent of breakfast. Someone's cooking? I don't have my watch on, but I know it's earlier than most wake up. I wander into the kitchen and find that Kazuo was creating an enormous breakfast spread in the kitchen. Morning, Mrs. Nakai. Hanako. Right, Mrs. Nakai. He grins at me over his shoulder as he continues making breakfast. I pick a little bit of it out of the pan. A piece of scrambled eggs that seems to have some kind of breakfast sausage cooked into it. Yummy. What had you cooking this early? Well, I figured I'd have something out for everyone this morning. Very considerate of you. That's what you pay me to be. I pat him on the back. Not so. I pay you to help us around the house. You're naturally a considerate person. He smiles genuinely, turning his back to attend to breakfast. If you say so. But I have to ask. Yes? Wait, who's saying this? If I could see it. But I have to ask. Yes? Are you alright, Mrs. Takai? Excuse me? He turns toward me, lowering the flame on the pilot. Are you alright? You seem really off lately. I furrow my brow and feel a sense of uneasiness. What do you mean? He sighs. You don't notice it? I feel myself pouting and putting my hands on my hips. I still wear a similar pink nightgown comparable to the one I wore as a youth, even in this age. What are you talking about? Nothing, don't worry about it. Looks like he has a pained expression on his face, like he wants to tell me something but can't. Tell me! Instead, he just puts a hand on my head. Like I said, don't worry about it. I feel a brush creeping into my face. This young kid, he's treating me like a child when I'm well over his age. You should be more respectful of your elders, I declare, moving his hand from my violent hair, lightened with age. I am. That's why I'm doing this. Don't worry about it, Hanako. Just change and I'll have breakfast ready for the family. I open my mouth to argue, but I can't find the will to. He's used my given name like I've always asked him to. I feel like it's his exchange. He'll lose a battle if I have to lose one. An equal exchange, much like trading pawns in chess. Fine! I exclaim and turn away from him and storm back to my bedroom to change. Kazuo laughs, probably due to how childish I'm being. No one said you have to act old when you get old. Some things don't need to change. When I return to my bedroom, I take care to avoid waking up Asao and change into some regular clothes. First, I don a long white gown and over it a high-collar blouse. I was given this blouse by Lily. Lace adorns around the collar and sleeves. I tie a light purple ribbon around the neck of the collar. I pull on some slippers and head out of the bedroom, not smiling backward at Asao still sleeping in her bed. The morning consisted of a delicious breakfast made by Kazuo, whom everyone thanked. I even forced him to sit with us and eat, something he always avoids doing. Fine, fine. He finally came and sat beside Minori, who was embracing him. You're kind of attractive when you're not rushing around looking flustered. You have that whole serious thing going for you. Minori informs him, causing him to blush. Thank you. He doesn't respond right away, but Minori starts talking to him, trying to learn more about our mysterious housekeeper. Instead of talking and answering her, he tries to use the food he's eating as an evasive maneuver. His tone was showing. He brings a smile to my face to see a little bit of his grandfather in him. I really wish Tomo would rely on us a bit more. Maybe we could have helped him. Everyone at the firm was devastated when we lost him. I started playing matchmaker in my head, looking from Tomo to Minori. The two were really close in age, but Minori could very well bring out the better parts of Kazuo that he was so intent on hiding from the world. I smiled to myself. It could work. After we finished eating, I had a certain urge to go to the balcony. It was the same urge I always had, to go watch the crashing waves in the morning. Our home overlooked a beach, one that Hassan and I loved visiting. I dabbed in my mouth with a napkin and started looking toward the door that led to the balcony. Where are you going, Mom? Hiro asked me. I gave him a distant smile. To go look at the ocean. It's always so pretty in the morning. They all gave me a worried look, but I went out to the balcony anyway. I stood out there, and the brisk morning breeze which ruffled my gown and pushed my hair from my face. I always enjoyed the view of blue horizon. I liked the idea that the world didn't have an end. There was always something unexplored but the eyes couldn't see. I heard a yawn from behind me and saw that Hassan was approaching. He tossed on a plain white shirt, another one of those damn sweater vests, and a pair of jeans. I tugged at the seam of the sweater vest. I thought I got you to throw all these away. He half laughed, half yawned. I keep a few for special occasions. Oh? Like what? In this case, when I really need to talk about something important. I was silent, appraising the old man beside me. I could practically hear his heart beating over the soft crashes of the ocean beneath us. I had that sound memorized, even with the changes that medicine and pacemakers had caused for him. I couldn't forget it. Yesterday, when you asked if I was lying about something, yes? I sort of was. I fronted him and grabbed hold of his sleeve. So, something is the matter. The sound nods. Something is the matter. What is it? My grip intensifies. Worry is filling my body. We've made it this long. Can't we keep going? I think it's time for me to go. His eyes look tired as he glances over the ocean. My grip loosens a bit in defeat. I can't eat as much anymore. I'm always tired. I think it's time I went. No. He turns to me with a smile. Come on now. Don't cry. He puts a worn finger to the corner of my eye, wiping away a premature tear. It happens to everyone, sooner or later. But your promise! I know. It's gotten me this far, but everyone has their limits. Sorry, I just don't have the same amount of energy that I used to. Remember that I had to do anything you say now for breaking the promise. Would you listen if I told you not to leave? He sighed, pulling me forward and kissing me on the forehead. Wish I could, but I can't. I sobbed once into his chest as tears escaped me. He feels so warm. I don't want to lose this no matter what. Just don't worry, okay? I'll always be here. Don't forget that, Hanako. Okay. I won't. I stammer out, my tears choking my words. Then I hear a voice behind me while I'm burying my face in the warmth of his chest. Grandpapa? I turn to see that Izumi's behind me, looking confused. I wipe my eyes, kneeling in front of her with a weak smile. Why are you crying? I don't like lying, and it'd be a bad example, so I tell the little girl the truth. So saying goodbye is hard. That's why I'm crying. She tilts her head a little, her eyes narrowed in confusion. But who are you saying goodbye to, Grandmama? What? A sense of confusion washes over me as the realization fills me. I turn around and see that nobody's there. Sal? I turn back to Izumi as something escapes me, something intangible. Like someone unplugged me and there was no more energy in my body. Just as I kneel, now turns the corner. There you are, you little punk. What are you doing out here? Izumi points as she turns to her uncle. Talking to Grandmama. She was saying goodbye to someone who isn't there. Now looks from Izumi to me worriedly. All right, go back to your mom. You know she gets worried when you wander off. Izumi nods quietly as she re-enters the house. Now approaches me. Grandma? I smile at him, but his smile feels empty. Yes? Who were you saying goodbye to? Sal. But Grandpa's been dead for around 10 years. He frowns. I hate asking you this, but have you been taking your dementia medicine? I opened my mouth for a moment, placing a hand on my lower lip. Without thought, an ashamed smile appears on my face. No. I've forgotten for a while, actually, and I hadn't asked Kazuo to refill it recently. In my mind, something cracks under a great weight. The memories start to peel themselves back, revealing what was really there. The cell was just a memory I'd been projecting into my life, to give me some kind of solace in my loneliness. The teacups were set by Kazuo, one for myself and my lost loves. The happenings between the two of them never happened. The chess game I played with myself. Kazuo draped a blanket over me while I slept alone on the couch. Every time I said our or us, everyone realized I was talking about Hisao and I. I was the only one who didn't know he wasn't there. I set his plate and filled it with food to entertain my delusions. The space beside me in bed had always been empty. Kazuo and everyone else knew I'd steeped in a lie and encouraged it because it made me happy. When I could see it in Nao's features, it hurt him to see me lost in my own mind. I'm sorry, Grandma, He scratches his head, frustrated. Finally, he sighs. I don't like seeing you like this, and you're always telling us to tell the truth. He's right, though. It's wrong to live like this. Keep lying. My eyes were overflowing. This Sal was gone, yet he said he was always there. But he wasn't, other than in my crumbling mind. Now stepped toward me to try and console me. I stepped away from him, tears falling as I moved. Guess that's what happens when you get old. You start living in memories just so you can make it to tomorrow. It's sad, but it's true, isn't it? Now steps toward me, trying to apologize. But I recoil from the touch. A tremble that I haven't felt since I was back in high school returns to my body. Realizing I didn't want to be consoled, now turns and leaves. I can tell he isn't sure if he's doing the right thing. Moments later, Megumi and Hiro approach me, trying to figure out what's the matter. And why I've dropped to my knees, crying incoherently. Everything started going downhill the next couple of days. I guess it's natural, though, isn't it? I've been here for a long time. I've outlived all my friends, all of the loved ones who have meant the world to me. As much as I love my family, I can't keep leaving like this. It's time I moved on. I've been bedridden for the last 3 days. I can't eat. I can barely find the strength to get out of bed. Hiro called a highly recommended doctor who checked up on me, but the only thing I could tell them was that it was my time to go. And as he spoke to them, well, he left my door open a sliver. It's just natural causes. Her body shutting down. Nothing painful, just gradual. She's an old woman. It was bound to happen eventually. And judging from the look on her face, he says he turns back toward me through the sliver, making contact with me. I'd be willing to say she's just lost her spirit to live. It happens all the time when the elderly get to a point where they just get tired of living. Truthfully, it's best this way. She'll probably pass away one night in her sleep. Keep vigil and make sure the ones she loves are with her when she finally lets go. I can hear the resounding sighs from my family. I'm sorry, everyone. I just want to see all my friends again. This is your life to live now, not mine. The first night was painful. All of my children and family surrounded me at my bed, holding my hands and arms. Their grip was so intense yet gentle, like they refused to let me go to the other life. I couldn't let myself pass that night. They were all too shaken up from how I'd suddenly let go of myself, and I had to tell now that he did the right thing. The next day, everyone seemed to have come to terms with what was happening. They were still crying, but they shed tears with smiles for me. Now wasn't here, though. When I asked, they told me he was outside of the room with Izumi. I told them it was fine. Everyone was grieving their own ways. He deserved his. When I told him I was sorry about all this, my daughter told me otherwise. It's fine. It's best this way, Gumi said, her cheeks streaked with tears. Even Hiro was choked up. Be happy over there, got it? Everyone else spent the night with me, but as I felt the time drawing near, I asked all of them weakly to leave the room, except for Hiro and Megumi. Both of them crouched on each side of my bed. I'm still sorry. I forced a smile for the two of them. Megumi squeezes my wrist gently. Don't be. This is good for you. I smile as I close my eyes. I'm really happy. I've had such a good life with all of you. can't tell you how happy I've been. I want to say they're responding, but their voices are getting duller. Are their grips getting looser? Ah, I think they're shaking and shouting to me, but I can't feel anything. It just feels like someone's draped a warm blanket over me, and it's blinding me from the entire world. I want to come back to them. I wish I could. I'd spend the rest of my life with you all, but all of my life has already left me. Sal, Lily, everyone I used to know and love. Even Takara had passed on before me. It was time. Goodbye, everyone. I love you all. The darkness begins to soften, as if somebody's trying to peel it apart. Someone's drawing back the warm swath of comfort from my body and returning my sense of feeling. A voice is calling to me. Who? Come on, wake up! That voice. My eyes snap open as I loose a gasp. I haven't heard that young voice in such a long time. Where am I? I glance around quickly and realize that I'm surrounded by bookshelves and sitting in a familiar beanbag. Yamaku, hi. A hand shoots my mouth. My stammer's back? Was that all a dream? Looking straight up, there's no ceiling, just a pearlescent whiteness that I can't seem to explain. What's going on? I have a book in my left. Life of Pi. The scarring on my hand. It's gone? I hear footsteps across from me and see a man in a suit with a driver's cap on. The limo driver? Looking down my hands, they look like they did when I was in high school, minus the scarring. It looks like I'm in Yamaku's library, but I remember getting married to a Sao. What's going on? A knowing smirk from the man. Welcome, Hanako. Excuse me? I said welcome. Welcome, like to a new home. That's basically what this is for you anyways. What? I was so glad that I'd finally defeated my stammer in my older age, but now it's back. That didn't explain everything I remembered, though. It'll go away if you want to. Wait, I didn't say that out loud. How did you... The stammer vanishes the minute I start to think about how it'd be nice if it actually disappeared if I wanted to. He smiles politely at me as he removes his hat with a flourish and makes a curt bow toward me. Aren't you the limousine driver for my wedding? Indeed I am, Mrs. Nakai. So confused. If you want to understand, follow me. He informed me, cheerfully placing his hat back on his head. I obliged, not knowing what else to do. As I walk, the pearlescent ceiling shifts colors and I realize that there aren't any walls, just bookshelves. As the limousine driver leads me through what seems to be a maze of bookshelves, I can't help but ask him a question. Who are you? Are you God or something? He pauses, looking to the left and retrieves a book. He flips through the pages silently and puts it back. Easy answer? Sort of. Complicated answer? Not at all. The driver repeats the process, pulling books from the shelves and perusing them for a few minutes before the book floats back to its place. People usually call us things like guardian angels and stuff, but that's not really right. People like me are just drivers leading you to your next destination. Just not always in the literal sense. Us? I pause and note the pleased smile on his face. Are there others like you out there? And why does Sal recognize you? He laughs a little. Getting a good look at his face, he does look familiar. Like someone I've known forever. Like a parent or something. Well, when someone spends a lot of time watching and leading you, one tends to recognize them. I couldn't resist being your wedding driver, although showing myself usually breaks one of my main rules. But actually driving people is one of the things I love doing. I'll ignore that he didn't answer I'd asked. Everything that I'd asked. Although, wait. He'd been watching over me, guiding me this entire time? I feel a sudden surge of anger. Then why didn't you save my parents? The driver stops in the aisle of books, turning toward me. He's frowning a little at me, placing a hand on my head. I would have, but do you think you'd have ever met Hisao otherwise? I can't argue with that as he ruffles my hair a little. Would I have? Couldn't there have been a way? There might have been, but would it have led to this happy ending? Probably not. I remember what he said in the limo, like what felt like forever ago. You said you make sure that people get their happy endings, right? You do this for other people? Hard to tell you the right answer to that. Yes and no. I do, but the people are the same and different at the same time. He sighs. I hate giving these kind of explanations, but the proper one will take way too long. Either way, you two have been my number one priority for a long time. When we finally exited the bookshelf maze, I was greeted by a sight that shocked me. It was the lobby of the library, walls and ceilings entirely put together. It was like I'd stepped into the past, a life I'd lost long ago. A surge of something I couldn't explain coursed through me. Was it surprise? Shock? Anticipation? Or just exhilaration? Everyone was standing before me, waiting to step from the pearlescent floor outside of the bookshelf maze and into a world I longed for. Sal waved to me, a soft smile playing on his lips. Jeez, took you long enough. We've been waiting forever, Hana. Lily, Akira, Kanchi, Rin, Shizune, Emi, Miki, Misha, Tomo, Takara, I can't read. All the people who I had lost in my time and my memories. They were all waiting for me at an enormous table. Is this? I asked, walking slowly toward Sal. He said nothing until I approached him, in which he embraced me. Yup, it's real. We've all been here waiting for you. You ass. What? You broke your promise. But I did wait for you this entire time. His grip tightened around me. I lurch as the sob catches me. I remember that day. He died when we were in our 60s from a sudden lethal heart attack. It was something I always denied. That denial spiraled out of control with my age and took on a physical form. I just pretended like it never happened. Once I fell out of my self-imposed illusion, it moved on. There's just one thing left. That familiar voice rang out from behind us. The limousine driver was holding out a piece of paper and pen to the two of us. You still haven't gotten that happy end you both want. There's still people you have something you want to say things to, aren't there? It's my duty to deliver that message and make sure the people I love get their happy ending. I looked from the paper to Sal. There were things we wanted to say, wasn't there? Things we wanted to reassure our children about, to let them know they were happy and well in another life that we could share together. That nothing had to end. We both take the paper and turn toward the table. Sal begins the letter, and we take turns filling out the letter. When we're both done, we hand the paper back to the limo driver. Can I ask you something? I ask. I'm holding hands with Sal. Something I haven't in such a long time. It feels so rare and submerged in happiness. Anything, dear. What's your name? He laughs softly. Well, I guess there's no harm in that, now that we're all here. While he wears a smile, he removes his hat, looking into it as if in thought. Then a moment later, he places it back on his head. It's... I'm sitting at the base of a tree, looking toward the sky. Think she's happy? I ask, looking toward the black funeral clothing we've all been wearing. There was an enormous turnout to her grandmother's funeral. My father and my cousin's mother are all taking condolences from all the people who had known and been influenced by Hanako-san. She's resting now beside her beloved husband, our grandfather, a great man. She definitely is now. Ayana's holding her daughter's hand, and I hope she's right. I couldn't help but feel there's nothing on the other side. When you die, it's all gone. It's depressing. I never thought she'd die, but she's gone now. And it's my fault that I had broken the illusion for her. Don't look so down, Haru demanded. He was adamant that she was our grandfather and all the people she loved. He was adamant that she was with our grandfather and all the people she loved. Still, he looked more defeated than any of us. I never got to beat her at chess, though, he mumbled. Haru had always looked up to her grandmother, respected and admired her. He was taking the hit hard. Still, I couldn't cope with the fact that she was gone. Whatever. I muttered to no one in particular. Minori was completely quiet, her usual pep completely gone. Across from our tree, in the street, a black limousine pulled up. Just another person paying their condolences and watching their grandmother being put in the ground. Instead, a man wearing a well-tailored suit and driver's cap approached me. Hello there, you're the Nakai family, right? We nod silently. Who's this? He looks kind of familiar. He extends a hand, an envelope in it. A message for your family, but the two who wrote it wanted to make sure you got it first. Make sure to show your parents afterwards. As he puts it into my hand, he doesn't let go for a second. She really would like it if you don't blame yourself. He takes his hand away, and his words don't strike me till I'm glancing over the envelope addressed to us. What? When I look up, the door to the limousine shuts closed and pulls away after the engine turns over. Glancing back down, I can't help but ask a simple question. Who wrote this? I open the letter, each of us looking at the stationery. This handwriting. I recognize it from birthday cards and letters I've read from ages ago. Hey kids, a lot has changed. Then the handwriting changes to an even more familiar handwriting. But no matter how much changes, we'll always love you. Holy hell. That was not fun. That really was not fun. You really have no idea. I should have worn my glasses for that. It's sitting a foot away from me. It was getting blurry. I was spinning. Oh, that was not enjoyable. But it's done. It is done. That is Hanako's epilogue. In its entirety. My God. I really do not want to do that again. So, I really hope that's a good enough recording, because if it's not, I guess I really don't want to do that a third time. I don't want to risk all the spinning I was doing. God damn. Them feels. Limo Guy Extra. One last call. I adjust my hat, taking in the dim glow of a small lamp on my desk. That's all I really need, just that small lamp. I tilt the black lamp across the varnished wood of my desk, manila folders, scattered papers in languages most people can't understand, and a little rotary phone. I usually just spend my time here in this dim little room, reading papers. My secretary brings me these files. She's a good girl. Never asks questions, just leaves it all alone. Where do the dossiers come from? Doesn't cross her mind. Why do I never receive funds for my services, but never seem to go out of business? Not a subject of discussion for her. The job benefits she receives as a result keep her quite complacent, and I get to quietly run my escort service. Sometimes I get calls, which I pick up. I listen to names and stories, but I decide the calls just aren't for me. I send them to some of my associates instead. Ever since I escorted that last couple, I just haven't felt that burning in me to make something right. I reach into my drawer, fetching a cigar and match. Without even thinking, I strike it against the brim of my driver's cap and lower it into the roll of tobacco dangling from my lips. I wonder, will I feel that urge again? It's been so many years, I've driven so many people to their destinations, but now I just didn't feel like it anymore. The fog of smoke fills my mouth, and I enjoy the peculiar taste it carries. The sensation fades quickly, and I exhale. I tilt my lamp toward the top of my desk. A picture frame. My favorites. A purple-haired woman standing with her love, their children and friends surrounding them. Usually it puts a grin on my face. Today, it puts a crease in my expression. Puffing softly toward it, I try to understand what it was about them that took the spirit out of me for this profession. In the end, a phone ring breaks my thought process. I sigh, taking the cigar from my mouth. Moving my lamp to the left, I spot an ashtray that was hiding within the darkness. Had it been hiding there, or did I will it there? I have no idea. I remove the cigar and place it there, aiming the light back on my rotary phone, placing it to my ear. Hello, Variance Limousines. It's my secretary's voice rather than a client's. They never knew that they were calling me. Their calls just got directed to me somehow, whenever needed. There's something I feel you want to know, sir. Yes? Remember that last request you denied? Yep. Taro Narita? He was calling for a wedding limousine. Yes, but it's the wife that I think you should be aware of. Oh? Her name's Suzumi. Ooh, that name sounds familiar. What was that? Her mother's maiden name? Hara. I sat up, a smile on my face. I know that surname. It's feeling more familiar. That's a good thing. Her grandmother's maiden name? Nakai. A grin burst onto my face. Yes! I laughed into the phone. No wonder. I would never forget that surname. The Nakai, I hope it is? Indeed, sir. Great. I'll make some calls. Wedding day. My wedding day. I've been looking forward to it for a lot of reasons, aside from the fact that I was getting married to the love of my life. I'm just winging this. I brushed the folds out of my white dress, preparing for the fateful music. You look nervous, sweetheart. My mother gives me a sincere smile, resting her chin on my shoulder. Shouldn't I be nervous? I don't feel nervous. I feel pretty calm. Take in a breath, relax. I am not nervous, I declare defiantly. My mother chuckles, nibbling on my shoulder. You definitely look nervous. Oh, come on, Ayano. Quit harassing her, my aunt chimes in, telling her off. Minori. I remember being flower girl for her wedding when I was just a little girl. Yeah, really, it's her big day. Let her try and compose herself. I bet you were way more nervous. My best friend Tsutsiko, my maid of honor, comes to the rescue. You know, you never talk about your wedding. She sighs, relinquishing hold of my shoulders. That's because it was terrible. You remember Papa Hasao? I nod quickly. Of course I remember him. She smiles softly. Well, when I was getting married, I didn't invite him. He had a big problem with my husband-to-be. She taps her thin chin thoughtfully. Almost the entire family had problems with him, but your great-grandpa hated him. Papa Hasao tried to give him chances to prove himself to the family, but my fiancé always refused. And on my wedding day, he kicked open the door and made a huge fuss during the ceremony. Safe to say, not the best day of my life. She shrugged it off. I got you at all, though, so I can't complain. She pecks me on the cheek. She never did remarry, so I guess it was all she needed. Put a big smile on my face. Although, talk to Grandpapa reminds me of the last time I saw Grandmama, and also why I was bursting with anticipation for more than just my wedding day. The stories, the photos. The letter that my mother and her siblings read, delivered by a man who couldn't have. I was too busy thinking about everything I'd been told by them, especially Uncle Now. Now was one of the more interested in what happened that day, and I guess he passed on the interest in me. When I turned to the others, I saw that almost everyone had left, except for my mother. The ceremony is about to start. They have all your bridesmaids assembling at the front. My heart leapt into my throat. Really? Mom, what if... I wanted to say it, but it felt like it'd be wrong to ask. Shh. Even if it does, I have no idea what I tell you to do, except not to make a big deal out of it. It's your wedding day first, remember? I nod, feeling a little let down. I want the fairy tale I've been told since childhood to be true, and I want to meet him. The organ began playing. Ooh, 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 ooh. Go! Everyone's waiting for you! Ayano started pushing on my back, ushering me out of the room towards the aisle. I nearly stumbled upon exiting the room and hear a small chuckle ripple through the church. Thanks, Mom. I can feel a heavy blush creeping onto my face. When I see Tadao's face, I don't think any of that matters anymore. Is this a feeling that Grandmama told me about when I was just a kid? We had a great big celebration. All our friends and our massive family all showed up. Not only was it just our family, but it was our families, for instance, long past, people who my great-grandparents had brought into their lives. I was the baby of the family, finally becoming an adult, getting married and starting my own life. We were applauded as Tadao and the limo pulled up to the street's curb. Like I did when we picked up from the church, I bounded straight toward the driver's side of the vehicle, peering into the window with a determined face that frightened the driver at first. Tadao laughed at me. Hon, what are you doing? This is the second time. I pouted as I walked away from the door toward the one that he had opened. I waved once more to everyone and got into the vehicle. Once I sat down, I leaned my head against Tadao's shoulder. I was starting a little let down. Well, there's an old story in my family, a really old one, and it involves weddings and the driver. I sigh, wrapping my arm around him and nuzzling my face in his arm. I don't feel like talking about it right now. I'm kind of tired. I think he's the one that said that. Tadao pulled his arm away from me, instead wrapping it around me and pulling me tight against his chest. If that's what you want, I'm a little curious now, though, I'll be honest. And tired? What about our honeymoon? He asked with a laugh. I grabbed a piece of his tux with my teeth, tugging on it. A strange habit I picked up from my mom. We bite as a show of affection. Oh, hush, I'll think about it, I tell him in a loathsome tone. I can practically hear him rolling his eyes. But instead elects to sigh contentedly. Can't speak. Ooh. We balance out perfectly. I lace my fingers around his, looking at the rings in our hands. We're married now, huh? It's so surreal that something so simple, so small, can be so big of a difference. A few words, a memory, and an event can change so much with so little really involved. Welcome home, and congratulations on your marriage, Driver tells us, even
exiting the vehicle door to open for us. He extends a hand to let me out of the vehicle. Thank you, I tell him as he extends a hand to also help my newlywed husband out of the vehicle. Much obliged, Tadao tells him, patting on the back. When we take a step toward home that was given to my mother and I, we stop suddenly. A man was leaning against a car, a cigar dangling from his lips, in his hands a folded-over newspaper. As he looks up and speaks, my entire body freezes. Thanks for bringing him here for me, Charlie. Much appreciated. I roll around to our driver and he's gone. I didn't even hear a door close or an engine turn over. Sorry about that. By the time I realized who you were, he already booked someone besides me. I had to pull a couple of strings to get you here at the time I wanted. Turn back forward to view him. He places his newspaper beside him on a small black sedan. Unfortunately, I'm on a tight time frame. Can't stick around too long, but I did want to do something for you two kids. He says, tapping on the sedan. Izumi, do you know this guy? My voice catches my throat. You haven't aged a day, was the only thing I could get out. He laughs, adjusting his hat. I suppose you haven't. No, I suppose I haven't. You, on the other hand, have gotten quite big since I saw you at the funeral. My heart's beating out of my chest. That was the same day he delivered that letter. This is the driver. Who are you? Tao asked, starting to get defensive, moving in front of me. You're a driver for the evening, he retorts, giving an elaborate full flourish and a bow. No, who are you? What's your name? What game are you playing at? He's clearly suspicious about a man he's never met before, who knows me from my childhood and is offering us a ride, although we're outside of our home. Name? He scratches his chin. I think I forgot. Usually when I meet people, they never ask for it. He shrugged his shoulders with a smile. Is it really important? I feel like driver's good enough. Driver, take this turn. Thank you for the ride, driver. It's all I really do, so why not? I drive people where they need to go, sometimes less literally than now. I tuck into Tao's sleeve. Come on, this is the guy I mentioned, the one who's been scattered in random family photos, shown up at family gatherings without anyone realizing who he was. I want to talk to him more. Tadao looked to be getting a little spooked. He was fairly superstitious, subscribed to more than a handful of unusual beliefs. So the situation was bothering him. He turns and gives a hard look at the man, who just kept smiling, puffing a bit on his cigar and tapping the ash from the end. For you, I guess, but I'll say this. I don't like you, driver. You weird me out. Tao says, shaking an accusing finger at him. The driver tosses away a cigar. Totally understandable. Most people who aren't used to me feel that way. I'm not exactly normal, most people realize. He then walks toward the back of his sedan, opening the door and motioning courteously for us to enter. We do... Damn it. We do as asked, and he closes the door, moving toward the driver's seat and entering. He starts the car and pulls away from our house. So I don't get it. If you've really been around since Izumi was a kid, and supposedly since before then, why don't you age? Aren't you human? People age quickly because they're their own creators. Nothing that puts itself together can last that long off the bat. But look at buildings. They outlast people all the time because they were created with longevity in mind. I arched an eyebrow. Are you saying you were made? He's silent while driving. No, damn it. He's silent while driving. I'm not sure if he's thinking about my question or ignoring it. We drive through the city, toward a tunnel that leads out of town. That's my theory. Honestly and truthfully, I don't know. I seemed impatient with that answer. You know how ridiculous this sounds? He asked. Our driver laughed, adjusting his rearview mirror toward him. I'd say it sounds less ridiculous than telling you I woke up one day with no prior knowledge who I am, where I came from. Absolute silence. So why are you here? Wait. God damn it, who said that? Probably Izumi. Assume it was. So why are you here? He sighs. I told your great-grandfather why I think I'm here, although he never knew I told him. He turns his eyes out of the rear view and back toward the road in front of us within the tunnel. It's not usually this empty. What was this long? He asked me if he ever had met me before. He hadn't, but I've known him better than anyone in the world. He's someone I've been keeping an eye on through the years and through entirely different lives. I held on to every word with this anticipation. I told him what to do. I told him what I'd do, and make sure people get their fairy tale endings. He told me he hoped I could get mine too one day. A look of indescribable melancholy entered the driver's normally smiling expression. I think that's why I'm here. I'm looking for some kind of ending. My ending. My happy one. So I help people find their own, see if I can find mine through theirs, maybe learn what I have to do to find it. How sad. So here he was, a man with no memory, no past and no future, just driving from place to place, trying to fill the space with others' happiness while he tried to find his. All the while, he keeps on with a smile. Is that why you've shown up for us? Tato asks. The smile pops right back into the driver's face. Absolutely. After all the endings and stories belonging to Izumi's great-grandfather, the one involving Hanako was the last. He sighs. I had delivered him to every happy ending I could. This one felt so final to me, so I felt like I'd figure out what I didn't know when this one came to a conclusion. I chime in. And how do you feel? The expression crushes. More empty than I had when I began searching. In every story, he's gone. The stories I'd grown so attached to have all finished. Seeing the happiness in him as he overcomes obstacles, falls in love, grows old, and passes on, that's all gone. There's only you guys now, which I like you all, but there was something that compelled me to be around his Sal. He scratches his chin while he controls the steering wheel with one hand. Maybe it was a kinship I felt with him. Like me, he was thrust into a new situation without one. All sorts of obstacles presented to him, coupled with hardships to make those obstacles that much taller. The driver shrugs with a sigh. We both suffer from scenarios we've been placed in outside of our control. He's been out. Damn it. We both suffer from scenarios we've been placed in from outside of our control, and he's been able to overcome them. Me? I haven't. I've just grown accustomed to them instead. I leaned forward, resting my chin on the driver's seat. Maybe that's what you need to be doing. Sure, it's lonely, but look at all the happiness you brought. Look at my family. Look how we've all done. Look at the people you've brought together, without ever really being known or properly thanked. A strange expression appears on his face. Shh, hold that thought. We're about to arrive. We finally erupt out of the tunnel, greeted with something that shouldn't have been on the other side. A grassy cliff with a single bench, some trees on each side, and a beautiful sunset like I've never seen before. The driver parks shortly after entering the tunnel and lets us both out. This here is a place that no one can ever reach unless I bring them. It exists on no maps in any world. He says, extending an arm out toward the cliff. I was born here, I guess you could say. This is where I first woke up, dressed in this suit with this hat on my head next to me. He said, removing and running his hand through his short and neatly combed hair. Go ahead, take a seat, he tells us with a smile. We're still standing beside us as a sedan. For some reason, it feels like we're stepping into his home, into somewhere private like a bedroom. Don't be shy, it's just a bench. I want you guys to enjoy this beauty I woke up to. The sun never completely sets here, just rests on the horizon. A reminder that the good things, the things that make life warm and worthwhile, are just on the horizon. We follow him, holding each other's hands as he walks past the bench. We sit and watch as he stands in front of us, reaches out toward the sun. You just have to go out there and reach for it. Sometimes people need a lift, and that's where I feel like I come in, even if there isn't one to give me a ride once in a while. It's strange watching this. He turns toward us. Izumi, would you mind continuing where you left off in the car? He asked with a knowing smile. I squeezed Tato's hand. Thank you for everything that you've ever done that no one knows about, because you made a lot of people very happy, myself included. Our driver closes his eyes, sighing contentedly. Maybe that's all I ever wanted. Even though I never gave anyone the chance, I think I just wanted to be thanked for all my work. Thank you, Izumi. Tato. Please enjoy the view. And just like that, he starts to come apart. Like a seamstress began pulling at a thread that held something together. He unravels at the cord, leaving nothing but a stream of colors to drift away in the wind. Tato watches and witnesses what just happened. We both turn over our shoulder. The tunnel's gone, so is the car. It's just a path leading to a long walk down a hill toward the coast, peppered with sparse trees, beach on each side. I don't understand any of it either, Tato. But I don't think everything in life is meant to be understood. That's where we reach out, isn't it? To see what we can grab hold of in the darkness. I rest my hand on Tato's shoulder. I guess I'm alright with that. I can feel my eyes growing heavy. Today's been so long. All the celebration, the emotional ups and downs, and now this. I can't believe I met him. A second after opening my eyes, I can find that we're both in our home. Tato's completely asleep, and what I see on the table causes me to shake him awake. Taro, wake up! Shaking him awake, I can see a clear confusion on his face. Did that happen? Yes. I nod, pointing toward a coffee table. On top of it, there's three things. A cigar box with a ribbon tied around it, a picture frame, and the two of us facing toward the horizon. And lastly, a navy blue driver's cap. Picking it up, I find there's a note. I probably won't need this anymore, I think. It reads, I look to the inside of the hat. Where the label is, at the back, there's a single word written along the white label. A name. It reads, Rata. Now, speaking my normal voice for... it's good to speak in my normal voice. Now, if you know your Katawa Shoujo history, you would get the importance behind who the limo driver is. Now, of course, this entire epilogue is not canon. You know, you can kind of figure that out. This is not canonically what happens should you go down Hanako's arc. It's basically fan fiction, but it's damn good fan fiction. Simply put, if I remember correctly, this goes into the whole history of Katawa Shoujo, because I believe it originated back in 2001. I think it might have been on 4chan. Like somebody drew the origins of the girls, and their internet moniker was, Rata. So basically, what you could take from the limo driver is that the limo driver is technically the creator of, the Katawa Shoujo, girls. You kind of pull that from it, but it's fan fiction. It's not canonical, so. Oh boy, now I get to edit. But yes, that is the epilogue in its entirety. I mean, really, where can you go now? They've both, passed on to the Yamaku in the sky, basically. And what if that really is what heaven is? Like, imagine this is just a time of your life where it's just like everything was perfect. What if you just had the opportunity that when you depart from this world, that you would relive that moment? I mean, if it was perfect, you'd be fine with reliving that moment for eternity, correct? I don't know. I'm not dead. Yeah, and now I'm just rambling on. But yeah, that is the epilogue. You'll notice there's a bit of different sounding in how I sound at this moment. That's because when listening to how I made the outro, I didn't say it very clearly, so I'm going to give it this second try after I've looked over the epilogue, kind of. I just spent the past hour trying to shorten the video portion to where it was not 17 minutes longer than the epilogue, and you would just be sitting here in silence watching me build for 17 more minutes. So, yeah, I spent an hour doing a massive amount of math. I should probably actually put up a screenshot of that, just so you know what kind of math I was doing. It's fantastic. I, calculated the seconds in the video and audio portions, and then did my math wrong. So I looked over it again, and tried it again, and then noticed that I did my math right the second time, so then I was like, okay, now that I know what I have to get the video portion to, now I just have to... I realize I'm rambling. But I basically had to find a clip speed that would kind of match best, so I was doing more math with that, just to try and find out which was closest, and then the math portion of my brain kind of just shut off, so I was like, oh, whatever. I'll just choose this one, which is the one I chose. And then actually listening to the audio, I was like, oh wait, I could choose that other one. And as it turns out, it actually ends at a pretty decent spot. But I am really rambling now. So, if you enjoyed this, like, almost 4-hour-long video, and it's going to be a solid 4 hours if I keep talking, haha, drop a like, drop a favorite if you want, share it with your friends if you enjoyed it, though considering they wouldn't know who Hanako is, probably not the best of ideas. Leave comments if you so choose, subscribe if you want to see, more content. I think I'm trying to be critical with this. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. I'll get to 500 that much faster, and I think at 500 I'll do another, celebration video. I don't know what it would be, but, 500 sounds like a good one. I would have done 100, but, I forgot. And then by the time I got around to where I could, it was like, I'll just wait. So, yeah. Like I said, drop a like, drop a favorite if you want, drop a comment if you so choose, subscribe if you feel like it. You can share it with your friends if you so choose to. And I will see you guys at 500. See you guys next time.